Chapter 1232. Even though the ancient gods had arrived, Zhao Feng was still able to escape, teleporting to some unknown place. But one thing was certain, Zhao Feng had not left the Gulong Zone. Even the furthest teleportation array in the Gulong Zone could not directly teleport him from this place to a place outside the Gulong Zone. Let's go. Quasi-god Tian Shui had mixed feelings. The man who had sighed and shook his head at her in Sea Pearl Tower had displayed his brilliance at the Gulong martial gathering, defeating all the challengers. Then, in the secret dimension, he had forced back quasi-god Lin Guang, refined the core of the five-colored crystalline palace, and even managed to safely escape when an ancient god descended. In addition, Zhao Feng had imprisoned 70 to 80 experts, including quasi-god Zi Feng of Violet Night Hall, the 12th-ranked quasi-god Gue Yi of the prodigy ranking, and the true gods and prodigies of other powerful factions. One could say that Zhao Feng had shaken the entire Gulong Zone. It wouldn't be long before the entire Gulong Zone would be turned upside down for the sake of searching for Zhao Feng. That brat is doomed. Quite a few people threw down these words and left. Even if Zhao Feng had taken away the five-colored crystalline palace, there were still many intent crystals and other precious treasures in other places. I hope that brother Zhao can leave the Gulong Zone as quickly as possible. Quasi-god Jian Feng was rather worried. After all, Zhao Feng's actions were far too shocking. He even dared to imprison a genius of a five-star faction. The power of a five-star faction was enough to shake the entire Gulong Zone, and Zhao Feng had also imprisoned members of several dozen other factions. Let's go. Not even the Sky Haze race can do anything about this. The old woman of the Sky Haze race sighed. It had taken them so much effort to find a good seedling, but he had caused such a disaster. The Sky Haze race couldn't help him even if it wanted to. Then, the crowd that had gathered there dispersed. The array began to form, and in a flash of five-colored light, Zhao Feng's figure slowly emerged. Whoosh! Whoosh! The array inscriptions under Zhao Feng's feet vanished after being used once. Zhao Feng was surrounded by pitch-black darkness, and all around him was rock and soil. This is underground. Zhao Feng's spiritual consciousness swept out and determined his location. At the same time, he discovered a substandard divine crystal mine underground. It seems like the Five Elements God Lord is extremely cautious. Zhao Feng exclaimed. While he was refining the core in the five-colored palace, Zhao Feng slowly touched the array formation beneath the palace. When the core was completely refined, Zhao Feng understood the function of the array patterns. If he had not known the function of the teleportation formation, Zhao Feng would not have trapped those people in the five-colored crystal palace. When he met the ancient god of the Star Tower, he might have handed over the core of the five-colored crystal palace that he had refined. That array was probably prepared by the Five Elements God Lord himself. Zhao Feng murmured. Beneath the training grounds, he had set up a teleportation formation. Even if an enemy were to come, they would be able to teleport away in advance. Moreover, the other end of the teleportation formation was built on top of a mineral vein to ensure that the formation could be connected smoothly. Whoosh! Zhao Feng used the earth escape technique to travel through the ground. This was a dense and humid forest zone. It was a boundless sea of green. Of course, there were many hidden dangers in the dense and towering ancient forest. Even in the clouds, there would be a flickering shadow from time to time. Zhao Feng soared into the sky, frightening a few flying monsters into flight. By pushing the vision of his left eye to the limit, Zhao Feng could see more than 100,000 li away. After observing for a long time, Zhao Feng confirmed his position. Wonderful! This teleportation formation has saved me at least a year of travel. Zhao Feng happily smiled. The distance Zhao Feng had teleported to was precisely on the route he would take to the Xiling Zone. Moreover, he had been teleported over an extremely long distance, directly crossing a peak 4-star faction. Of course, this was all thanks to the map that quasi-god Jian Feng had given Zhao Feng. Otherwise, Zhao Feng would still have no idea where he was. Whoosh! A five-colored crystalline ball of light appeared in Zhao Feng's hand. Within the ball of light was a five-colored palace. The palace was connected to Zhao Feng's mind. Even without entering, Zhao Feng could sense the constant ripples of energy and furious roars coming from within. Damn! Just what's going on outside? That golden-haired brat didn't come back in after leaving. Are we going to be trapped here forever? Nearly 80 people had gathered together and were bombarding one of the doors of the palace. However, the five-colored palace remained completely unscathed under their attacks. Suddenly, a golden-haired figure appeared behind them. Golden-haired brat, hurry and release me, or else Violet Night Hall won't let you go. Quasi-god Zi Feng immediately bellowed. By imprisoning us, you've offended all the factions behind us. You'd better think this through. Yet another young quasi-god threatened. We've already left that secret dimension. Zhao Feng said with a smile. Suddenly, the palace became transparent, allowing everyone to see what was outside. Where is this? How did you manage to safely leave that secret dimension? The entire five-colored palace was once more filled with roars and roars. Countless experts were exploring that secret dimension, so how could they allow Zhao Feng to leave with such a treasure? Some of the powerful true gods and ancient gods of the major factions had even arrived. Logically speaking, Zhao Feng should have found it impossible to escape. This is vast green ancient forest, the territory of Tunguen Mountain. A true god expert from a nearby faction recognized this place. There's no harm in telling you. There's a teleportation array hidden beneath this palace. Once I refine the core of the palace, I can activate the array and leave at any time. Zhao Feng smiled as he explained to the group. Damn it! Hurry and release us. You madman, what do you want to do to us? Quite a few people lost control of themselves and began to attack Zhao Feng upon learning of the reason. The attacks of several dozen quasi-gods and true gods were enough to raise the territory of a four-star faction. However, Zhao Feng's expression was calm and unafraid. Whoosh whoosh. With a thought from Zhao Feng, the intent energy of the five-colored palace began to gather around his body, blocking all the attacks coming his way. If you want to leave, you'll have to become my servants. Otherwise, you'll have to stay here. After leaving behind these words, Zhao Feng left once more. These people were the ones who had attacked Zhao Feng in the past. Zhao Feng had no pity for them. Moreover, as long as Zhao Feng didn't hand over the five-colored palace, even if he did hand over these people, he would still be hunted down by the major factions. Thus, Zhao Feng might as well imprison them. If he was pursued by a faction along the way, he could at least take out one or two hostages. In addition, the majority of these people were quasi-god geniuses with bright futures. If they were willing to become his servants, Zhao Feng was willing to accept them and give them a way out. Whoosh! A violet gold mist spread out, and a green-clothed woman wearing a white cloak slowly walked out. Where is this? Han Ning looked around in surprise. When Zhao Feng went to explore the Five Elements God Lord's seclusion area, he had taken Han Ning into his illusion city little world, so she knew nothing about what had happened outside. However, if Han Ning knew that she was wanted not only by Yellow Dragon Pavilion but also by many 4-star factions, 4.5-star factions, peak 4-star factions, and even 5-star factions of the Gulong Zone, would she regret following Zhao Feng? This is the territory of Tunguen Mountain. You might not know this, but in short, we're even closer to the Xiling Zone. Zhao Feng had no intention of explaining to Han Ning about the Five Elements God Lord's cultivation area. The two set off and continued on their way. We have to leave the Gulong Zone as quickly as possible. A grim expression appeared on Zhao Feng's face. Although he had safely escaped, that did not mean that he was truly safe. The news that Zhao Feng had obtained a powerful treasure and imprisoned many experts and geniuses had not yet spread. For this reason, Zhao Feng could still borrow the teleportation arrays of a few factions. Even if his whereabouts were exposed, there was nothing he could do. Once the matter of 5-Star Mountain spread, more than half the factions of the Gulong Zone would put out a bounty on Zhao Feng's head. At that time, Zhao Feng would truly have to be careful and not reveal himself. Time slowly passed. As expected, it didn't take more than 10 days for the matter of 5-Star Mountain to spread to the nearby 4.5-star factions. A month later, almost all the factions of the Gulong Zone knew of this news. Violet Night Hall, one of the 3 5-star factions of the Gulong Zone, was enraged and mobilized all the factions under its jurisdiction to put out a bounty on Zhao Feng. One had to realize that Quasi-God Zi Feng was ranked 4th on the Quasi-God ranking. He was the strongest prodigy of Violet Night Hall and its future hope. But now, Quasi-God Zi Feng had been imprisoned by some nameless person. Of course, Violet Night Hall also wanted to capture Zhao Feng because of the 5-colored palace. As long as they could obtain this treasure, Violet Night Hall could raise several geniuses on the same level as Quasi-God Zi Feng. At a certain bay, Zhao Feng was preparing to borrow the teleportation array of a 4.5-star faction, but he realized that the other party was intentionally delaying him. It seems like the bounty on my head has already been issued. Zhao Feng understood. Whoosh! Zhao Feng immediately used the Metal Lightning Radiance Wings technique to flee. After all, a 4.5-star faction had an ancient god presiding over it. If an ancient god targeted him, he would be finished. After fleeing for several million li, Zhao Feng finally stopped. By now, Han Ning had more or less figured out what had happened. Even now, she still found it somewhat hard to believe that while she was in Zhao Feng's Illusion City little world, Zhao Feng had done something so heaven-shaking. We've already reached the edge of the Gulong Zone. It won't be long before we leave this place, but this is also the most crucial moment. Zhao Feng solemnly said. He could no longer use teleportation arrays, so he could only do his best to travel through uninhabited areas. The teleportation array of a 4.5-star faction suddenly lit up. Swish! A middle-aged man with pitch-black skin covered in bewitching violet tattoos slowly emerged. Spreading out his divine sense, he instantly captured some information. Zhao Feng. The middle-aged man softly muttered this name. Zhao Feng had some reputation in the wild ancient secret dimension. He had befriended the blue-scaled race and worked with the Sky Haze race and some other factions to attack the Phoenix Nest. Now that he had caused such a ruckus, his name had naturally been investigated. This middle-aged man was none other than ancient god Black Heaven, who had come to the Gulong Zone to take back the ancient god seal. Some time ago, he had inadvertently sensed a connection with the ancient god seal, allowing him to reconfirm the direction of his pursuit. I didn't think that something like this would happen in the Gulong Zone. Several dozen geniuses of major factions were imprisoned by a brat. Ancient god Black Heaven couldn't help but jeer. Ancient god Black Heaven then memorized Zhao Feng's appearance and characteristics. The treasure Zhao Feng had obtained was far too precious. If he encountered it, ancient god Black Heaven wouldn't mind taking care of Zhao Feng and taking the treasure for himself. Of course, ancient god Black Heaven had no idea that his target was Zhao Feng. Chapter 1233. Previously, no one knew where Zhao Feng had teleported to using a teleportation array. However, many factions were still able to determine a general area, so they had been searching the major factions near Stellar Tower. However, these factions had received the news rather late, and Zhao Feng was proficient in spatial teleportation, so they had long since retreated a certain distance. Thus, half a year of searching had yielded no results. When Zhao Feng's tracks appeared on the outskirts of the Gulong Zone, the factions that had issued a warrant for Zhao Feng's capture immediately took action. Zhao Feng had expected all this, but there was nothing he could do about it. He had to leave the Gulong zone as soon as possible. The lifespan of a true god expert was too long, and after reaching the ancient god level, they were practically immortal. Thus, even if they did not capture Zhao Feng in a few hundred years, the search would not weaken. It might continue for 1,000 years, 10,000 years, or even longer. Moreover, when the time came, the Gulong zone's border would be heavily guarded. Even if Zhao Feng waited for tens of thousands of years, he would not have a chance to leave. In the meantime, he might even be found. In addition, Zhao Feng couldn't just hole up like a turtle for tens of thousands of years. He hadn't even cultivated for 50 years. Thus, it was better to hurry while most of the search teams had not arrived. There was still a good chance that he could leave the Gulong zone. As long as he left the Gulong zone, it would not be so easy for them to capture Zhao Feng. These factions could summon wind and rain in the Gulong zone, but they would not be able to cause much of a stir in other zones. A man was traveling alone on the endless frigid ice veins. The man's face was cold, and his light golden hair flowed behind him like a stream of golden light. "Human, you dare trespass on my territory? You truly don't know the meaning of death." Suddenly, an angry roar came from the huge ice mountain in the distance. "I'm just passing by. I have no other intentions." Zhao Feng's expression was cold as he said directly. Along the way, the areas he had traveled were all dangerous forbidden zones. Not only were the environments harsh, but there were also large numbers of monster hordes. Every time Zhao Feng said this, the monster hordes that discovered Zhao Feng would immediately attack. This time was no exception. Rumble. The iceberg trembled, and a few giant ice figures flashed out. Taking a closer look, in front of Zhao Feng, there were 3 huge flying beasts circling around. Their huge white wings covered the sky, but their tails had a long dragon snake tail. A rank 3 Yao immortal. Zhao Feng's expression did not change much. Along the way, Zhao Feng even encountered a rank 4 Yao god. Zhao Feng could deal with a rank 4 Yao god by himself, but if a rank 4 Yao god brought along many subordinates, Zhao Feng would have no choice but to use his trump card to escape. Seeking death. Among the humans, you're just an ordinary quasi-god. How dare you look down on us? The white-feathered bird was enraged. It flapped its wings and urged the power of the Upanishad. Boom! The color of the sky changed, and the temperature plummeted. All that was left in his field of vision was the dense hail. Kill! Zhao Feng held the ancient god seal, activated his sacred lightning body, and charged out. Boom! A casual slash from Zhao Feng unleashed a 5-colored bolt of lightning. This enormous bolt of 5-colored light was so powerful that it seemed capable of cleaving apart this world of ice and snow. This brat is very strong. The 3 white-feathered birds attacked together, filling the sky with ice feathers as they swept toward Zhao Feng. These ice feathers were not only extremely sharp, but they also contained the power of extreme cold. An ordinary rank 3 true god would be heavily injured if not killed by these 3 birds. However, instead of retreating, Zhao Feng pushed forward, activating his sacred lightning body with all his power. His body was shrouded in a layer of 5-colored lightning as he clashed with the 3 white-feathered birds. At the right moment, Zhao Feng used an eye bloodline technique on the 3 Yao gods. The 3 Yao gods instantly fell into a disadvantageous position. Once one of them was killed by Zhao Feng, the other 2 heavily injured Yao gods fled. Zhao Feng continued on his way. Ever since he was teleported away, Zhao Feng had never stopped to rest. He didn't even have the time to consolidate his cultivation. For this reason, Zhao Feng would occasionally use actual combat to temper himself. Of course, Zhao Feng wouldn't intentionally prolong the battle. After all, he was still being pursued. There's no detailed map for the rest of the journey. Zhao Feng had an indifferent expression. After traveling for some time, the pair finally left this perilous land of ice. At this moment, Zhao Feng was constantly looking into the distance to observe the situation. After traveling for some time, Zhao Feng finally discovered a group of 4. The strongest of the 4 was a rank 3 true god while the other 3 youths were quasi-gods. Senior Fan, just who is that Zhao Feng? To think that he would even dare to offend Violet Night Hall after provoking such a disaster. A youth with a green spiral tattoo on his forehead curiously asked. We're just going to deliver something. There's no need to worry about anything else. The bald old man in the lead immediately said. Elder Fan was naturally very curious about a person who could shake the entire Gulong zone and who didn't belong to any faction. At this moment, Elder Fan sensed a strange disturbance in his interspatial dimension. This is. Elder Fan sent his divine sense into the interspatial dimension. Inside were 3 square-shaped silver instruments, each of which had a silver crystal bead. But at this moment, these silver beads were constantly flashing with dazzling light, and the frequency was increasing. These are the search instruments that the higher-ups gave me. When the instruments light up, it means that the target being searched is within a certain range. Elder Fan's expression suddenly froze. He naturally knew that these 3 search instruments had been specially made to search for Zhao Feng. Whoosh! Elder Fan took in a deep breath as he focused his gaze into the distance. He saw a very delicate scholarly man slowly approaching him. His strength was only at the peak mystic light realm. Senior, I wish to exchange for a map of the nearby area. This youth had a warm smile on his face. This person was the only clone that Zhao Feng hadn't seen before, Zhao Hui. Even the children of the Gulong zone probably knew what Zhao Feng looked like. Therefore, every time Zhao Feng made a move, he would send Zhao Hui out. Unfortunately, Zhao Hui wasn't very strong. Otherwise, he would have been able to borrow the teleportation arrays of some of the smaller factions. Humph, what can you take out to exchange for our map? A youth immediately mocked when he saw Zhao Hui's weak appearance. A measly peak mystic light realm couldn't possibly take out anything good to exchange for Elder Fan's map. Shut up! Elder Fan's sudden shout froze the youth in place. He didn't understand what was going on. This little friend should be new to this place. If you need a map of the nearby area, you can use the map you have on you to exchange with me. Elder Fan looked at Zhao Wang, his eyes filled with doubt as he sized up Zhao Hui. But right at this moment, a spatial ripple appeared, and several figures with powerful auras descended. Whoosh! 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 Zhao Feng, Zhao Wang, Zhao Wan, and the Black Destruction Serpent Dragon surrounded Elder Fan's group of 3. Hand over the map and explain how you found me. Zhao Feng coldly barked. On the way here, Zhao Feng had been careless several times and almost made a grave mistake. For this reason, Zhao Feng was extremely cautious and would not let go of even the smallest clue. Just now, the elder had actually reprimanded his own clansman for an outsider. He was clearly rather flustered. Afterward, the elder carefully examined Zhao Hui, his expression grim. It was clear that he was thinking about something. Senior Fan, what's going on? The 3 quasi-gods immediately panicked. The 4 people who had suddenly appeared didn't seem to have very strong cultivations, but their auras were astonishing. Good sir, please spare us. We promise not to expose your whereabouts. Elder Fan immediately begged. He had heard quite a few rumors about Zhao Feng, so he knew that he alone was no match for Zhao Feng. Hurry up and hand it over. Zhao Feng's expression chilled in annoyance. Yes, yes. Elder Fan immediately handed Zhao Feng a map and took out the 3 search instruments. Buzz. Bzzz. The 3 search instruments floated in front of Zhao Feng, their surfaces flashing with blinding light so fast that it was impossible to see them with the naked eye. Zhao Feng took the search instruments and sent his divine sense into them. Soon, he understood the reason. These 3 search instruments imitated Zhao Feng's soul aura. As long as someone with a similar soul aura appeared nearby, they would sound an alarm. At the true God level, a person could easily change their appearance, but not their soul aura. Boom! Bang! The three search instruments in front of Zhao Feng shattered. After handing over the map, Zhao Feng swiftly left. "Senior fan, he's Zhao Feng." A young girl in the group asked with wide eyes after seeing Zhao Feng leave. "He let us go." Another youth said, fear still lingering in his heart. "The search instruments can't be delivered, so his whereabouts have been exposed. Even if he kills us, it's useless." Elder Fan straightforwardly said. Once Zhao Feng received the map, he immediately set out. "Master, these search instruments were created based on the heritage of the Heaven's legacy race. The process is rather complicated and has not yet been popularized. Once it is, as long as you remain in the Gulong Zone, you will be found no matter where you hide." The Black Destruction Serpent Dragon messaged. It also hoped that Zhao Feng could leave the Gulong Zone as soon as possible. The Black Destruction Serpent Dragon naturally knew about these special search instruments. Even if one was hidden in another dimension, the search instrument would still be able to detect them when they were within a certain distance. This was because even if one was hidden in another dimension, they still existed within the spatial framework of the ancient desolate realm of gods. This included the space-time robe dimension and even the ancient dream realm. "I know." Zhao Feng's expression darkened. The four of them were only from the clans in the vicinity. He was confident that the Peak 4-star factions and Violet Night Hall would be carrying many of these search instruments. Once these search instruments were popularized, even if Zhao Feng hid in the space-time robe or even in the ancient dream realm, he would still be found. Fortunately, the rest of the journey is very short. Zhao Feng calmed himself down. After obtaining the new map information, Zhao Feng had already confirmed his route. Swish! Zhao Feng put on the space-time robe and used instant movement in this forbidden and dangerous area where few people tread. Chapter 1234. Once Zhao Feng learned of the search instrument, he didn't dare to waste any more time. Zhao Feng took out the space-time robe and increased his space intent, increasing the distance he could travel. After teleporting 10 times, Zhao Feng stopped. Swish! Zhao Feng let Han Ning out of the Illusion City pocket world. Han Ning also began to use her Eye of Life to help Zhao Feng recover. Zhao Feng would also use these few moments to cultivate and increase his strength. Zhao Feng could cultivate in many different directions, but right now, he was focusing on space intent. Zhao Feng had long ago reached level 2 of perfection in space intent. Once he reached level 3, Zhao Feng's instant movement distance would increase. Moreover, with the space-time robe, it would be even easier for Zhao Feng to comprehend space intent. Once he had completely recovered and his body was in peak condition, Zhao Feng would once more set out, repeating this process. 3 months quickly passed, and Zhao Feng's space intent smoothly reached level 3. And with the space-time robe's buff, his space intent had reached level 4. Zhao Feng was getting closer and closer to the next zone. One day, as he was traveling, Zhao Feng sensed that he was being watched and immediately used the Eye of Heaven. The Eye of Heaven could cross extremely long distances, and the Eye of Heaven itself also had an extremely long range of vision, essentially doubling Zhao Feng's vision. As expected, I've been discovered. Zhao Feng was stunned. The leader of the team was holding a search device in his hand. They've already guessed that I want to leave the Gulong Zone, so they've increased the number of people here. Those pursuing Zhao Feng were naturally no fools. They definitely knew what Zhao Feng's goal was. But even though he knew that the road ahead was fraught with danger, Zhao Feng still had to charge forward. Only by charging forward would he have a chance of survival. Zhao Feng used teleportation to flee. At the same time, he would occasionally use the Eye of Heaven to observe his surroundings. However, search instruments have yet to be popularized, and ordinary true gods can't catch up to me at all. Zhao Feng did not panic and continued to flee. His space intent was at level 3, and with the boost of the spacetime robe, it could reach level 4. Instant movement with level 4 space intent could cover an extremely long distance. Ordinary rank 5 true gods would be left in the dust. However, now that Zhao Feng's tracks had been discovered, an ancient god would definitely make a move. In the periphery of the Gulong zone, the teleportation array of a peak 4-star force suddenly lit up. Whoosh! 3 silhouettes appeared from within it. That kid actually wants to leave the Gulong zone. A middle-aged man whose body flickered with a purple jade light snickered. Don't laugh. Once that brat leaves the Gulong zone, it will be even more troublesome to capture him. The other purple-skinned beauty wore a solemn expression. Humph, we must capture him before he leaves the Gulong zone. The leading elder in the middle had cold eyes and a dignified expression. Yes, ancient god Night Dragon. The other two saw that ancient god Night Dragon was so serious and immediately nodded. Ancient god Night Dragon was a rank 7 ancient god of Violet Night Hall. He had been sent to the periphery of the Gulong zone to capture Zhao Feng. Of course, as a 5-star faction, Violet Night Hall had deep reserves. It had sent more than one team, and there were as many as 3 ancient gods among them. Although 3 ancient gods weren't much to Violet Night Hall, their target was just a quasi-god junior. Thus, this kind of force was more than enough. We've brought so many search instruments. When the time comes, even if that brat is hiding deep underground, we'll still be able to find him. The middle-aged man gave an embarrassed smile. Other than God Realm's sacred lands, 5-star factions were the hegemons of their zones. Almost all of them had existed for more than 100 million years. One could never underestimate their resources and reserves. For example, an ordinary faction would find it extremely difficult to make even one of these search instruments. Meanwhile, ancient god Black Heaven was also constantly using teleportation arrays to travel. In the recent period of time, the tool in his hand had been frequently connecting to the ancient god seal. Huh, kid, it seems like you still don't know that your death is nigh. Ancient god Black Heaven couldn't help but savagely laugh. Along the way, ancient god Black Heaven heard more news about Zhao Feng. I didn't think that this person would be near my target. Perhaps I'll be able to take care of him when the time comes. Ancient god Black Heaven's lips curled into a smile. On the other side, Zhao Feng was still doing his utmost to flee. He had no idea that Violet Night Hall had mobilized such a large force, nor did he know that an ancient god expert had been tracking him for several years. The strongest expert of this nearby 4-star faction is only a rank 4 true god. As Zhao Feng fled, he was carefully inspecting the map in his mind. This nearby 4-star faction was about the same level as Sky Feather Island. This time, Zhao Feng slightly changed directions and headed straight for this 4-star faction. After all, his tracks had already been exposed, so there was no need to continue hiding. The ancient tower of black metal was guarded by several dozen experts, including a rank 3 true god. Suddenly, a spatial ripple came from the distant horizon. Swish! A figure leapt out from within. This is instant movement. A guard was so frightened by Zhao Feng's technique that he instinctively felt reverence, so much so that he forgot about Zhao Feng's appearance. Zhao Feng. It's Zhao Feng. Isn't that the person that's wanted throughout the Gulong zone? The experts around the teleportation array were instantly thrown into a frenzy. A rank 3 true god flew into the air. They had always been the ones who strictly investigated the people using the teleportation array. No one had expected for Zhao Feng to use this sort of method to reveal himself. In another black metal palace, a rank 4 true god flew out with a heaven-shaking energy. Whoosh! Whoosh! A rank 3 true god and a rank 4 true god appeared in front of Zhao Feng and solemnly stared at Zhao Feng. Zhao Feng was only a quasi-god, but his arrival placed an unprecedented pressure on this 4-star faction. Even a rank 4 true god would not dare to be careless in front of Zhao Feng. When Zhao Feng's arrest warrant was issued to the entire Gulong zone, it naturally explained Zhao Feng's strength and the number of helpers he had. "I want to use the teleportation array." Zhao Feng had an indifferent expression as he looked down at the people below him. All was deathly still. Zhao Feng's words seemed to give them the impression that they could not defy him. "Delay him." The rank 4 true god of this faction messaged the other true gods. Suddenly, Zhao Feng moved. Swish. 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 In a series of blurs, Zhao Feng passed by everyone and appeared on the teleportation array of the ancient Tower of Black Iron. Hiss. Everyone was frozen to the spot, fear rising in their hearts. A quasi-god had casually passed through all of them and appeared on the teleportation array. And they hadn't even been able to see a trace of Zhao Feng, much less think about stopping Zhao Feng. "Activate the array, or else everyone present will die." Zhao Feng's icy voice rang out once more. This time, all the members of this 4-star faction felt like they had been plunged into an icehouse, their bodies powerless. A quasi-god had declared in front of all of them that he would slaughter everyone present, and none of them doubted that Zhao Feng could do it. "If we send you away, we'll all die," the rank 4 true god helplessly said. If they sent Zhao Feng away, not only would the 4.5-star faction not let them go, Violet Night Hall would not let them go either. "Then die." Zhao Feng immediately activated his sacred lightning body and 5 elements divine power, unleashing a massive palm of 5-colored lightning. Boom! Bang! The huge 5-colored lightning mountain pushed in a certain direction. Along the way, many members died miserably under this palm strike. "Do it!" the rank 4 true god barked. All the true god experts present immediately charged at Zhao Feng. Swish! With a wave of his silver robe, Zhao Feng summoned his other helpers. The Black Destruction Serpent Dragon only exuded a thin sliver of its Destruction Dragon race bloodline, but it was enough to completely suppress the bloodline energy of all the experts present. This really is the bloodline of the Destruction Dragon race. How could this be? That's one of the top 10 ancient bloodlines. The true god experts who had been preparing to stop Zhao Feng instantly dropped to the ground in fright. After all, the majority of these people were rank 1 and rank 2 true gods. Given their cultivation, how could they possibly resist the bloodline of a rank 3 destruction dragon? The only person who was slightly better off was the rank 4 true god. The information was correct. Zhao Feng still has many powerful helpers. Even if he encounters a rank 5 true god, he'll still be able to fight. The rank 4 true god sighed in amazement. At this moment, Zhao Feng activated his golden eye and used an illusion eye bloodline technique on a certain person. Thump! Thump! The demigod was completely powerless against Zhao Feng's illusion eye bloodline technique. His eyes were blank as he walked toward Zhao Feng. With the array activated, Zhao Feng's group left. After leaving, Zhao Feng continued to search for the next 4-star faction and forcefully used the teleportation array. Just like this, Zhao Feng continued to use instant movement, using the teleportation arrays of a few 4-star factions. After a few days, Zhao Feng arrived at the border of the Gulong zone. Hurry and activate the teleportation array. Zhao Feng stood on the array platform and used an illusion eye bloodline technique to control a member of his faction. Everyone else could only stare at Zhao Feng and the people around him, not daring to do anything. After using this teleportation array, I'll be able to leave the Gulong zone for good. Zhao Feng softly muttered. But at this moment, violet clouds began to churn in the distant horizon. The sky was instantly covered in a dark violet radiance, and the world seemed to be plunged into a violet night. An ancient god is here. Zhao Feng's eyes widened in shock. By exposing himself and forcefully using the teleportation arrays of a 4-star faction, he had sped up his journey, but he had also sped up the arrival of an ancient god expert. Swish! The array beneath Zhao Feng's feet was completely formed, and a layer of silver light engulfed Zhao Feng. Hurry and stop him. The newcomers were none other than the ancient god team from Violet Night Hall. They hadn't expected for Zhao Feng to expose himself and forcefully use the teleportation array. At this moment, a teleportation array near Zhao Feng also lit up. Through his profound space intent, Zhao Feng sensed that another ancient god expert was about to arrive. Hurry and destroy the teleportation array. Upon seeing the ancient god of Violet Night Hall arrive, the members of the 4-star faction immediately disregarded their own lives and attacked. However, their attacks were incapable of breaking through the defenses of Zhao Feng's group. Swish! The figures of Zhao Feng's group vanished from the teleportation array. When Zhao Feng's group appeared on another teleportation array, he swung his fists at the nearby teleportation arrays and destroyed them. Chapter 1235. Only when Zhao Feng destroyed all the nearby teleportation arrays did he finally breathe a sigh of relief. He had now completely left the Gulong zone and reached the Tianyun zone. However, this did not mean that Zhao Feng was safe. It could only mean that he had escaped from the greatest danger. You're Zhao Feng. At this time, not far from the teleportation array, the 3 guards cried out in alarm. Although this place no longer belonged to the Gulong zone, it was on the border of the Gulong zone, so they naturally knew a little about the ruckus Zhao Feng had caused in the Gulong zone. Of course, the people of the Tianyun zone had never imagined that Zhao Feng would be able to escape the pursuit of so many factions of the Gulong zone. It was rumored that the Gulong zone's Zhao Feng had obtained a supreme treasure and imprisoned the quasi-gods and true gods of several dozen factions. The entire Gulong zone was in an unprecedented state of shock. The 3 couldn't help but wonder what sort of treasure Zhao Feng had obtained. But this was just a thought. The 3 of them were only demigods. Zhao Feng could kill them with a snap of his fingers. At this moment, several dozen beams of white light flew out from the vast palace complex. These people were the upper echelon experts of this faction. They had sensed the astonishing vibrations coming from the teleportation array and immediately appeared. Let's go. Zhao Feng took the Black Destruction Serpent Dragon and the others into the spacetime robe dimension and then used instant movement to leave. He hadn't teleported too far away. Even if Zhao Feng destroyed the teleportation array here, the Gulong zone's ancient gods would be able to get here in no time. Instant movement. Zhao Feng. The eyes of the old patriarch of this faction widened in shock. Even he, a rank 4 true god, could not use instant movement. Thus, if Zhao Feng wanted to leave, no one present could stop him. Besides, they didn't dare to stop him. Go and report this matter to the higher-ups. The old patriarch said to a middle-aged man next to him. The Tianyun zone had no grudge with Zhao Feng, but Zhao Feng possessed a supreme treasure, so everyone was interested in him. Such an important matter naturally had to be reported to the factions above. After fleeing for several million miles, Zhao Feng heaved a sigh of relief. Even if the pursuers from the Gulong zone chase me to the Tianyun zone, it won't be easy for them to find me. Zhao Feng's expression calmed down a little as he slowed down. The factions that Zhao Feng had offended were all in the Gulong zone. With a single command from Violet Night Hall, a third of the Gulong zone's factions would have to obey their commands. But things were different in the Tianyun region. The Violet Night Hall could not influence the forces here at all. However, the Tianyun region and the Gulong region are neighbors. Some of the major powers here should know that I have a great treasure on me. Zhao Feng's expression froze. There was no one who was not interested in treasures. Even those who had no enmity with Zhao Feng would not hesitate to make a move if they knew that Zhao Feng was carrying a treasure. Thus, even though Zhao Feng had arrived at the Tianyun region, he still needed to keep a low profile. Therefore, Zhao Feng still chose to use the teleportation formation of an ordinary 4-star force to travel. Only after fleeing a certain distance did Zhao Feng dare to enter the nearby Exchange Spiritual Hall. One day, within the cultivation pagoda of the Exchange Spiritual Hall in the western region of the Tianyun region, Zhao Feng randomly chose a cultivation chamber and entered the space-time robe dimension. Master, could you take out some intent crystals so that I can advance my fire intent? The Black Destruction Serpent Dragon implored. No problem. Zhao Feng replied. The more time passed, the more resources the Black Destruction Serpent Dragon would need to recover its cultivation. It was better to give it some intent crystals to increase its strength so that the Black Destruction Serpent Dragon could slowly cultivate and recover its cultivation. At this moment, Zhao Feng's gaze fell to the side, and his face froze. He had seen an egg. Zhao Feng did not remember that there was an egg among his cultivation resources. But Zhao Feng quickly remembered. The color and patterns of this egg were extremely similar to the egg Zhao Feng had obtained in the Floating Crest trial. The only difference was that this egg was a little larger. This is, the little thieving cat. Zhao Feng's calm expression suddenly shifted. He had already noticed that something was wrong with the little thieving cat. He hadn't expected for the little thieving cat to turn into an egg on this trip. Correct. The Black Destruction Serpent Dragon nodded and gave the egg a strange glance. When the little thieving cat turned into an egg, it had been given quite a fright and had carefully observed it for a very long time. Does breaking into the heavenly divine realm require turning into an egg? Zhao Feng was rather speechless. The little thieving cat had mentioned before that it wanted to break into the heavenly divine realm, but Zhao Feng had not thought much of it. But Zhao Feng had never imagined that the little thieving cat would turn into an egg when breaking into the heavenly divine realm. Zhao Feng had also never heard of an ancient race turning into an egg when breaking into the heavenly divine realm, so he was rather shocked and curious. Bzzz. Zhao Feng couldn't help but use his left eye to inspect the egg. What a powerful obstacle! Zhao Feng's expression froze in shock. The obstacle in seeing through this egg was the same as when he saw through the five-colored palace. At the same time, a ripple came from the depths of Zhao Feng's soul. This was the connection between Zhao Feng and the little thieving cat through the pet contract. Zhao Feng could sense the little thieving cat's resistance. Zhao Feng did not continue to look through the egg-shaped little thieving cat. Swish! A five-colored crystal ball appeared in Zhao Feng's hand, and within it was a five-colored palace. With a thought, Zhao Feng entered the palace. A moment later, a wave of attacks swept toward Zhao Feng. Zhao Feng had already seen through everything. The moment he entered the five-colored palace, he circulated the power of the palace to protect himself. Release me! Let us out! Furious roars came from within the palace. After being trapped by Zhao Feng for so long, they found it hard to maintain a good state of mind. You're looking down on Violet Night Hall too much. It won't be long before the experts of Violet Night Hall capture you. When the time comes, you'll wish you were dead. Quasi-God Zifeng of Violet Night Hall coldly stared at Zhao Feng. He had always believed that Zhao Feng would be captured by Violet Night Hall, and this five-colored palace would also end up in Violet Night Hall's hands. I forgot to tell you, but I'm currently in the Tianyun zone. Zhao Feng faintly smiled as he walked to the side. What? Tianyun zone? You actually left the Gulong zone. The experts imprisoned in the palace instantly felt their minds crumble. Even the eyes of some of the experts from the Violet Night Hall were filled with despair. Zhao Feng easily took a few intent crystals from various parts of the palace and then left. After handing the intent crystals to the Black Destruction Serpent Dragon, Zhao Feng went to Zhao Wan's side and gave him many intent crystals containing 5 elements intent. With the Eye of Myriad Forms, these intent crystals were of even greater help to Zhao Wan than to Zhao Feng. Thump! Sitting cross-legged on the ground, Zhao Feng began to use the intent crystals to cultivate. As Zhao Feng gripped the intent crystals in his hand, he felt the five elements intent fill his mind, allowing his mind to comprehend them. What a shocking effect! Zhao Feng was pleasantly surprised. A few moments later, he sensed that his understanding of five elements intent had improved. Profundity crystals were the best materials for cultivating profundities. The lowest grade of profundity crystal could only be condensed by ancient God realm masters. Therefore, it was impossible for an ordinary 4-star force to have a profundity crystal. 4.5-star factions also had very few intent crystals, and they were usually only given to the top-class geniuses of their faction. As he cultivated five elements intent, Zhao Feng also divided his mind to cultivate other aspects. During the Gulong martial gathering, Zhao Feng had encountered many dangers. Under the pressure of life and death, he had squeezed out some of his potential. Now, his cultivation was as smooth as flowing water, and his strength was steadily climbing. 1 month later, Zhao Feng left and continued on his way. Han Ning also indicated that she was still in danger and didn't want to be a burden to Zhao Feng, so she remained in Zhao Feng's illusion city little world. 5 years later, in the central region of the Tianyun region, outside the exchange spiritual hall managed by the Ghost River race, a man and woman arrived, attracting the attention of many nearby people. These two were naturally Zhao Feng and Han Ning. The two of them had already reached the central region of the Tianyun region and no longer needed to hide. And Zhao Feng didn't need to travel day and night. He would occasionally go to the exchange spiritual hall to relax. What a beautiful woman! The experts preparing to enter the exchange spiritual hall were all captivated by Han Ning's beauty and demeanor. There were also a few women who stared at Zhao Feng with a strange light in their eyes. Compared to when he first left the Gulong zone, Zhao Feng's overall strength had greatly increased. The most obvious difference was that Zhao Feng's five elements intent had reached the threshold of level 3, and the 11th level of the 5 elemental wind lightning technique had reached perfection. By relying on his 5 elements intent, which had all reached level 3, and his perfected 5 elements divine power, Zhao Feng now had the ability to contend against a rank 5 true god. My strength should be on par with the strongest prodigy of the Gulong zone, quasi-god Heaven Swallower. Zhao Feng revealed a smug expression. All of this was because of the profundity crystals in the entire palace. Thus, it could be said that Zhao Feng risking his life to swallow this crystal palace was worth it. After paying a certain amount of god crystals, Zhao Feng entered the exchange spiritual hall. First, Zhao Feng was still trying to think of a way to exchange for a map. Second, he was going to taste the delicacies of this exchange spiritual hall. But at this moment, the ancient god seal in Zhao Feng's interspatial dimension suddenly started to tremble, and the azure lines on its surface started to shine with a crystalline luster. What's going on? With a thought, Zhao Feng entered his interspatial dimension. This is not good. Zhao Feng suddenly thought of something, and his expression changed dramatically. When he first came to the ancient desolate realm of gods, Zhao Feng rarely used the ancient god seal, so he gradually forgot about it. After all, in his view, the faction that true god Tian Fa belonged to was very far away and would never be able to find him. But at this moment, the change in the ancient god seal was like a warning bell that rang in Zhao Feng's mind. Let's go. Zhao Feng put Han Ning into his illusion city little world and prepared to leave. But at this moment, the distant sky darkened. Whoosh! The furious howls of demons and ghosts came from the roiling black mist. The heaven-shaking pressure made everyone in the exchange spiritual hall tremble. In the center of this black mist floated a black-skinned middle-aged man. The devilish purple tattoos on his face exuded an evil and dangerous aura. This person was none other than ancient god Black Heaven. An ancient god actually came to this exchange spiritual hall. I wonder which ancient god has come to this place. Sounds of discussions could be heard in the exchange spiritual hall. Everyone looked into the distance with reverence in their eyes. The Ghost River race behind this exchange spiritual hall was only a 4.5-star faction, so it was very rare to see an ancient god. Suddenly, the array formation around the exchange spiritual hall shattered with a loud rumble. What's going on? That ancient god expert destroyed the array. What does he want to do? Everyone in the exchange spiritual hall was instantly alarmed. They originally believed that this ancient god expert was just passing by, but it now appeared that something was wrong. Ha, it's you. Ancient god Black Heaven gripped a small piece of black metal in his hand. His eyes were focused on a golden-haired man in the exchange spiritual hall. Chapter 1236. The entire world was pitch black. Countless ghosts and spirits howled and howled, creating a sinister and dreadful scene. The countless experts in the exchange spiritual hall trembled in fear under the pressure of ancient god Black Heaven. They felt that this ancient god was the ruler of this world, and their lives were at the mercy of the ancient god. Whoosh! At this moment, the guardian of the Ghost River race flew out of the exchange spiritual hall. Senior, why are you targeting the Ghost River race's exchange spiritual hall? The rank 6 true god guardian of the exchange spiritual hall had a grim look in his eyes. True gods had 9 ranks, and the difference between the first 6 ranks wasn't very large. Many powerful true gods could contend against those 1 rank higher than them. However, the gap between a rank 6 true god and a rank 7 ancient god was as vast as the distance between the heavens and the earth. The rank 6 true god felt an immense pressure as he stared at the ancient god expert in the black void, his mind trembling in fear. This was because he could tell that this was the 82nd ranked Black Yao race of the 10,000 ancient races. Inside the exchange spiritual hall, Zhao Feng's fleeing steps came to a halt. He never would have imagined that true god Tian Fa's ancient soul hall would send out an ancient god expert. Zhao Feng had once faced an ancient god of Stellar Tower, but his intuition told him that this ancient god was even more terrifying and powerful. Boom! Hiss! Wings of lightning formed on Zhao Feng's back as he prepared to flee. Humph! Ancient god Black Heaven grunted, and then the entire world began to rumble. Boom! Bang! The wings of lightning on Zhao Feng's back were scattered. At the same time, Zhao Feng was assailed by an invisible wave of intense energy that inflicted some damage to his body and soul. The buildings around Zhao Feng were also pulverized by that powerful intense energy. So strong! Zhao Feng was stunned. At this moment, he sensed that all the lightning energy in the world had vanished. His lightning flash was useless. This was the power of an ancient god. The intent and divine power of an ancient god were so powerful that they could expel other types of energy from this space. Of course, it wasn't just Zhao Feng who was affected by ancient god Black Heaven. Some of the weaker people who were extremely close to Zhao Feng were almost killed. Senior, please stop. The rank 6 true god was rather depressed. He didn't understand why the ancient gods of the Black Yao race wanted to make trouble for the Ghost River race. Scram! Ancient god Black Heaven roared. Boom! An invisible black tornado swept toward the rank 6 true god. In a flash, the rank 6 true god was thrown back several thousand li, his body covered in wounds and his face stricken with fear. Ancient god Black Heaven's gaze fell on Zhao Feng. At this moment, Zhao Feng felt as though he was being suppressed by the heavens. Bearing a tremendous pressure, his body could not move at all. Tell me, how did true god Tian Fa die? Ancient god Black Heaven coldly asked. True god Tian Fa was ancient god Black Heaven's descendant. He was extremely confused. How could someone of true god Tian Fa's strength and divine artifact fail the mission and even die? Thus, ancient god Black Heaven wanted to know the reason. Zhao Feng felt a chill run down his spine as he looked at this ancient god. This person was also a member of the Black Yao race and cared so much about true god Tian Fa. Zhao Feng did not dare to tell him that he had killed quasi-god Tian Fa. Right now, Zhao Feng was trying to think of a way to escape. But Zhao Feng discovered that in the face of such a powerful ancient god expert, he was powerless to resist. I can only do this. Zhao Feng's eyes darkened as he sent his mind into his left eye. Swish. A moment later, Zhao Feng's body vanished. Ancient god Black Heaven's face froze in shock, and then he gave a wicked smile. I didn't think that you would be hiding such a high-level dimension. Although this dimension is extremely compatible with the dimensions of the ancient desolate realm of gods and is almost perfectly hidden within, do you really think that I can't do anything to you? Ancient god Black Heaven gave a strange laugh, appearing extremely happy. He originally pursued Zhao Feng to take back the ancient god seal, but now that he had obtained such a high-level dimension, how could he not be happy? I'll let you experience the power of an ancient god. Ancient god Black Heaven raised his head to the sky and laughed, his body seething with demonic energy. Run! Inside the exchange spiritual hall, countless experts were fleeing. When an ancient god took action, the heavens and earth would shatter. They didn't dare to linger around. Ancient god Black Heaven's black claws tore at the place where Zhao Feng had vanished. In a flash, all the energy in the world gathered at the place where Zhao Feng had vanished. Kaboom! This powerful attack, infused with high-level space intent, slammed into the air, causing it to fiercely shudder. In the ancient dream realm, Zhao Feng felt a stabbing pain in his left eye. Ah! This person is so strong. Zhao Feng immediately covered his left eye. On Sky Feather Island, the few true gods who were so narrow-minded and didn't even know how to use instant movement were naturally helpless against Zhao Feng, who was hiding in the ancient dream realm. However, Ancient Soul Hall's ancient god Black Heaven was an outstanding ancient god and possessed high-level space intent. He was able to sense Zhao Feng and unleash a destructive attack that shook the void and pierced through the dimension Zhao Feng was hiding in. And the ancient dream realm was the origin dimension of Zhao Feng's god, so it would constantly damage Zhao Feng's god eye. Swish! Zhao Feng put on the spacetime robe and left the ancient dream realm. The place where Zhao Feng had appeared was still rippling with spatial energy, making it impossible to use instant movement. Just when Zhao Feng was preparing to flee again, he suddenly noticed something strange in the distance. The spacetime robe. Ancient god Black Heaven was elated. It seemed like this trip hadn't been in vain. Whoosh! Quasi-god Black Heaven raised his left hand, prepared to kill Zhao Feng and take everything he had. I know how true god Tian Fa died. But at this moment, Zhao Feng suddenly spoke. Speak. Ancient god Black Heaven's face froze. I killed him. Zhao Feng chuckled. You're seeking death. Ancient god Black Heaven's face contorted into that of a wraith. He felt like Zhao Feng was playing with him. Just when ancient god Black Heaven was preparing to kill Zhao Feng, you don't dare to kill me. Zhao Feng smiled once more. The ancient god seniors of my race have arrived. You're dead for sure. Zhao Feng stared into the distance. At this moment, the worldly pressure of an ancient god slowly descended. The leader's body flashed with a violet light, and he held a search instrument in his hand. The crystalline ball of light on the search instrument was blinking at an extremely fast rate. The newcomer was none other than ancient god Night Dragon. Back when Zhao Feng fled the Gulong Zone, Violet Night Hall had lost all face among the 3 5-star factions of the Gulong Zone. Thus, after some discussion, Violet Night Hall dispatched several teams into the Tianyun Zone to conduct a secret search. Ancient god Night Dragon's team was one of them. They were certain that Zhao Feng believed that he had escaped his pursuers and would let down his guard. For this reason, Violet Night Hall's search party focused on the Exchange Spiritual Hall. Coincidentally, just as ancient god Night Dragon was about to arrive at this Exchange Spiritual Hall, the search instrument detected something. Two ancient gods, and they don't seem to be from the Tianyun zone. What's going on? The overseer of this exchange spiritual hall, alarmed and confused, began to retreat. At the same time, the nearby experts also began to retreat. Ancient God, Black Yao race. Ancient God Night Dragon's eyes focused on Ancient God Black Heaven. Not good. I didn't think that the ancient gods of the Tianyun zone would capture Zhao Feng first. Ancient God Night Dragon messaged the other two true gods. The treasure on Zhao Feng can't fall into the hands of any other ancient god. The other rank 6 true god messaged. They believed that ancient god Black Heaven wanted to capture Zhao Feng for the 5-colored crystalline palace. However, this treasure was far too precious, and Violet Night Hall could not allow any other faction to obtain it. Moreover, in order to regain some face for Violet Night Hall, they could not return empty-handed. I'll hold him back. The rest of you quickly kill Zhao Feng and then retreat. Ancient God Night Dragon messaged the other two true gods. Violet Night Race, you have nothing to do with this brat, right? Ancient God Black Heaven's expression darkened. In his view, Zhao Feng did not have the bloodline of the Violet Night Race, so he couldn't possibly be a member of the Violet Night Race. But at this moment, Ancient God Night Dragon charged at him. Seeking death. Ancient God Black Heaven was instantly enraged. Ancient God Black Heaven had always restrained his temper in the other zones, but now, an ancient god of the Violet Night Race dared to directly attack him. In the distance, Zhao Feng gave a delighted smile. He also didn't know why an ancient god of Violet Night Hall would suddenly attack ancient god Black Heaven. Because space was unstable, Zhao Feng could not use instant movement, so he could only fly. At this moment, the other two true gods of Violet Night Hall charged at Zhao Feng. Brat, die for me. Ancient God Black Heaven had already made up his mind to kill. Ignoring Ancient God Night Dragon, he slashed a claw at Zhao Feng. Kaboom! A massive claw made of violet-black winds tore through the sky and rumbled toward Zhao Feng. This ancient god is so strong. The two true gods of Violet Night Hall were alarmed and immediately retreated. Once this brat is dead, we'll take everything on his body. The middle-aged man said with a smile. The purple-skinned woman nodded. Boom! Bang! Ancient God Black Heaven's attack engulfed Zhao Feng. Something's wrong. The middle-aged man's brow creased. As the black-violet mist scattered, the 5-colored crystalline palace returned to Zhao Feng's hand. Meanwhile, Zhao Feng transformed into a streak of golden light and fled into the distance. After him. The purple-skinned woman grimaced and immediately set off. But after running a certain distance, Zhao Feng used instant movement to vanish. On the other side, Ancient God Black Heaven and Ancient God Night Dragon had already begun their battle. At this moment, the world for a radius of 10,000 li was flooded with black-violet light. So strong. Ancient God Night Dragon was alarmed. They were both ancient gods, but his opponent was much stronger. That brat didn't die. Ancient God Black Heaven scanned the area with his divine sense and realized that something was wrong. With his attack just now, he was certain that Zhao Feng was doomed. But in the end, Zhao Feng used some sort of technique to block it and escape. Meanwhile, after using the 5-colored palace to block Ancient God Black Heaven's attack, Zhao Feng put on the spacetime robe and began to use instant movement. Behind him, the two rank 5 true gods of Violet Night Hall had lower space intent than Zhao Feng's, and they didn't have a treasure like the spacetime robe, so they gradually lost track of Zhao Feng. Swish! A ripple appeared in the air, and Zhao Feng's figure emerged. It seems like I was too careless. I didn't think that Violet Night Hall would still not give up. But I have to thank them for helping me deal with the problem of Ancient Soul Hall. Zhao Feng's expression was gloomy as he continued to flee. As he traveled, Zhao Feng sent his mind into his interspatial dimension and took out the god sealing stone to suppress the ancient god seal. Chapter 1237. When Zhao Feng unexpectedly escaped from ancient god Black Heaven's attack, the two ancient gods began to communicate. Everything became clear. I was rude this time. Ancient god Night Dragon was somewhat apologetic. He was the one who attacked first. So this kid also stole something from ancient Soul Hall. Ancient god Night Dragon continued. Of course, he didn't believe ancient god Black Heaven's words. Zhao Feng was just a quasi-god, so how could he possibly be in the zone of ancient Soul Hall and steal something from it? But ancient god Night Dragon only needed to know that ancient god Black Heaven wasn't after the five-colored palace. Not good. That brat's escaped. Ancient god Night Dragon received the messages from the other two ancient gods of Violet Night Hall, and his face turned somewhat angry. The two rank 5 true gods he had brought with him had been thrown off by Zhao Feng. The two ancient gods immediately used instant movement to flee. Good sir, be at ease. I have a special search instrument, and I also know where that brat is going. Ancient god Night Dragon savagely laughed. After using instant movement to flee a certain distance, Zhao Feng immediately changed directions. The divine senses of ancient gods had a very wide range, and ancient god Night Dragon also had a search instrument. As long as they followed the same direction as Zhao Feng, they would quickly catch up. In this period of time, Zhao Feng used instant movement to travel. When he reached his limit, he would have Han Ning used the Eye of Life to help him recover. One day later, Zhao Feng decided to take a break. Ancient God, there will come a day when I will trample all of you beneath my feet. Zhao Feng's eyes were brimming with determination as he clenched his teeth. At present, his strength was on par with the strongest prodigy of the Gulong Zone, Sacred Lord Heaven Swallower. Since Sacred Lord Heaven Swallower was confident in attaining rank 4 of the Heavenly Divine Realm, Zhao Feng also had a chance. Directly attaining rank 4 of the Heavenly Divine Realm would make his path to becoming an ancient god extremely smooth. If nothing unexpected happened, he would be able to reach the peak of the ancient god realm. For this reason, Zhao Feng was confident that as long as he lived, he would be able to wash away the humiliation he had suffered. You can. On the side, Han Ning'er's eyes rippled as she continued to help Zhao Feng recover. Han Ning'er had never seen someone as talented as Zhao Feng. Along the way, she had witnessed Zhao Feng's miracles. She believed that Zhao Feng would definitely be able to do it. After recovering to his peak state, Zhao Feng continued on his way. This time, he changed his route and was cautious along the way. For ancient god Night Dragon to coincidentally run into Zhao Feng meant that he definitely knew Zhao Feng's final destination. Zhao Feng was no fool and naturally realized this, so he changed his route. In the blink of an eye, 25 years had passed. The Xiling Zone was one of the most prosperous zones in the ancient desolate realm of gods. There were 4 great 5-star forces, and each of them was extremely powerful. As for the uninhabited regions of the Xiling Zone, they either had exceptionally harsh environments or were occupied by extremely powerful Yao gods. At the border of the Xiling Zone, massive ancient trees towered into the clouds. From afar, the continuous layers of clouds looked like the lush leaves of this ancient forest. A team of 6 rapidly advanced through the gloomy forest. Everyone, be careful. Quite a few teams that enter the Xiling Zone have suffered in the heaven-towering forest on the border. A gray-robed elder held a dark violet ring in his hand as he led the way. He had a head of dark red hair, and his body was covered in rather obvious violet scales. The other 6 members of the team all nodded. In this team of 6, the gray-robed elder was a rank 4 true god, the 2 muscular men were rank 3 true gods, and the remaining 3 youths were quasi-gods. Uncle He, with the dark soul ring in your hand, what danger can we possibly face? A red-clothed girl in the group giggled. The other members of the team also smiled and said nothing. Uncle he nodded. The divine artifact in his hand, the Dark Soul Ring, could increase the range of his divine sense and conceal its aura. It was a rare divine artifact used for scouting. But nothing was absolute. Besides the 10,000 ancient races, there were also some extremely powerful Yao gods with innate abilities. At this moment, Uncle He's expression flickered. The entire team instantly stopped. Broom! A massive rumbling soon began to descend. Tens of thousands of li away from the team of 6, 4 figures rapidly flew past. One was black and the other 3 were violet, Ancient God Black Heaven and Ancient God Night Dragon. Wherever the trio passed, the world would change color, and all obstacles in their path would be pulverized by the powerful shockwaves. Awoo! The panicked howls of Yao beasts came from various parts of the heaven-towering forest. Following this, the entire ancient woods were filled with a series of rumbling noises. What's that brat doing in the Xiling Zone? Ancient God Black Heaven asked. I heard that he's here to deliver the Eye of Life. He probably wants to use the Eye of Life to climb up to a major faction. Ancient God Night Dragon wasn't sure, so he could only guess. The 4 of them were like a sharp sword that could pierce through all, piercing through the heaven-towering forest and obliterating everything in their path. In the distance, the team of 6 stood in a daze. 2 of those 4 are ancient gods. Uncle he took in a deep breath and then said. Ancient gods. Several of the younger members of the team had looks of respect in their eyes. If they wanted to pass through the heaven-towering forest, they needed to be as cautious as ever. However, the team with ancient gods was using this crude and barbaric method to fly at full speed, ignoring everything. Let's keep going. Once the 2 ancient gods had left, Uncle he said. But the 6 didn't advance for long before they began to slow down. Uncle He's expression darkened as he scanned the area with his divine sense. Not good. 2 ancient god experts just passed by and caused the Yao beasts of the heaven-towering forest to go berserk. Uncle he had a rather nasty expression. How could this be? A red-clad girl's expression changed. Her watery eyes were filled with fear. Kaboom! Gradually, a ferocious demonic aura began to emanate from all over the place. Retreat! Wait for the Yao beasts to calm down before advancing. Uncle he immediately ordered. All the Yao beasts of the heaven-towering forest had been alarmed and were in a rather violent mood. If they recklessly advanced, they would only invite endless danger. Then, the whole team huddled together, with the 3 weaker quasi-gods in the middle. The team formed a whole and quickly retreated. At this moment, several vicious figures with monstrous auras appeared in the clouds above the gloomy and primitive forest. Awoo! A massive golden griffin, accompanied by a golden storm, was the first to strike. Uncle he stepped forward, a dark red sword appearing in his hand, and he slashed out with a wave of heat. At the same time, some other powerful Yao beasts also charged forward. The strongest of these Yao beasts were rank 3 Yao gods. They were no match for Uncle he in a one-on-one fight, but they had the advantage in numbers. Boom! Bang! Crash! The team of 6 continued to block the attacks of the Yao beasts while rapidly retreating. But at this moment, Uncle He's eyes focused on a certain place in the clouds. Suddenly, the world began to churn as a massive black figure flashed toward them like a bolt of black lightning. Not good. It's a rank 4 Yao god, Flash Eagle. Uncle he immediately called out. Before a rank 4 Yao god had appeared, he had been able to stabilize the situation, but now, they had no chance of winning. The 6 immediately used their trump cards to hold back the Yao gods while retreating. 2 months later, 2 figures appeared in the towering forest on the border of the Xiling Zone. I've finally arrived, the Xiling Zone. Zhao Feng's eyes flashed. After 25 years, he had finally crossed 3 zones and arrived at the Xiling Zone. This was the longest journey Zhao Feng had ever taken. At this time, Zhao Feng's handsome and cold face was now more defined and robust, and his deep and calm eyes gleamed with a sharp light. "Why did you come to the Xiling zone?" Han Ning asked with a smile. The two had experienced far too much on this journey, and their relationship had gradually grown closer. "To find someone." Zhao Feng gazed into the distance. He hadn't expected that the ancient desolate realm of gods would be so vast and that it would be so difficult to find someone. So much time had passed. He wondered how Yufei was doing. Oh. Han Ning saw a hint of tenderness in Zhao Feng's calm and deep eyes. For some reason, she felt a little disappointed. At this moment, Zhao Feng's eyes shifted as he looked to his right. Han Ning also slowed down as if she had heard something. "Good sir, please save us." At this moment, a soul voice flew toward Zhao Feng. "Let's go." Zhao Feng called out as he flew over. He knew nothing about the Xiling zone, not even a map. Now was the perfect time to obtain this information from the person who had asked for help. The six-man team was surrounded by 10 Fey immortals, and all of them were heavily injured. 2 quasi-gods. 2 muscular men in the team glanced at Zhao Feng and Elder He. Their gazes paused on Han Ning for a few moments before they sighed. "Little brother, you should leave. There's a rank 4 Yao God and 4 rank 3 Yao Gods here, you can't help me." Elder He said with a frown. Just now, he had relied on the dark soul ring to sense from a distance that other people were passing by, so he called for help. He hadn't expected for only 2 quasi-gods to appear. The others looked at Zhao Feng and Elder He, and their joyful expressions instantly darkened. 2 months ago, they had been entangled by these Yao gods and had been unable to escape. As the battle continued, they were gradually surrounded. If they hadn't made sufficient preparations, they would have died long ago. They had believed that they could be saved, but they realized that only 2 quasi-gods were passing by. Zhao Feng glanced at Elder He before flying forward. He's still coming. Is he seeking death?" The red-clothed girl said in surprise. Several Yao gods had already noticed Zhao Feng, and their eyes gleamed with savage light. "It seems like he really is seeking death. Unless he has the fighting power of a rank 3 quasi-god, it's useless." A rank 3 true god in the team said. "Seeking death." At this moment, one of the rank 3 Yao gods surrounding the team of 6 transformed into a savage black blur that lunged at Zhao Feng. At this moment, the team of 6 could already see Zhao Feng being torn apart. Zhao Feng stared at the rank 3 Yao god, his eyes suddenly exuding a cold and somber light. Boom! Hiss! Zhao Feng's right arm flashed with 5-colored lightning as he thrust out a palm. The gigantic 5-colored lightning palm shone with dazzling brilliance, dazzling to the eyes. The charging rank 3 Yao god collided with Zhao Feng's palm. A woo! A moment later, the rank 3 Yao god let out a shrill howl. The palm of 5-colored lightning slammed into the rank 3 Yao god, its enormous 5 elements wind lightning energy. When the palm of lightning stopped, the rank 3 Yao god had been reduced to a scorched corpse. Chapter 1238. After killing a rank 3 Yao god with a single palm, Zhao Feng had no change in his expression. Although he had been constantly on the road for the last 25 years, he had not neglected his cultivation. Moreover, cultivating in the spacetime robe dimension for 10 days was only 1 day in the outside world. Zhao Feng's 5 elemental wind lightning technique had reached perfection, and his palm just now contained the perfect fusion of 5 elements wind lightning divine power. A trifling rank 3 Yao god was simply incapable of stopping a perfectly fused 5 elements divine power. Moreover, Zhao Feng's 5 elemental wind lightning technique was already at the 12th level, making it even more destructive. Not far away, the 6-man squad and the 9 Yao gods that were fighting suddenly stopped. Elder He stared in shock at Zhao Feng, and then at Han Ning, his eyes flashing. He knew that he had probably made an error in judgment this time. The muscular man who had said that Zhao Feng was not a rank 3 quasi-god and would be of no use now had his mouth wide open in disbelief. It appeared that Zhao Feng was not just a rank 3 quasi-god. The other red-clothed girl covered her mouth with her delicate, pink hands. She couldn't believe what she had just seen. She was also a quasi-god genius of her race, but compared to Zhao Feng, she was like comparing a firefly to the bright moon, the difference between the sky and the earth. Human, this matter has nothing to do with you. Mind your own business. The rank 4 Yao god, Flash Eagle, coldly glared at Zhao Feng and warned, his eyes glimmering with a savage light. He sensed that Zhao Feng was even stronger than this rank 4 true god. Good sir, please save us. The Scarlet Stripe race will definitely reward you handsomely. Uncle, he spoke once more. He had advised Zhao Feng to leave, but Zhao Feng had still come to help, so he was confident that Zhao Feng would not leave them in the lurch. Zhao Feng nodded in agreement. Everyone in the team was pleasantly surprised. He had just mocked Zhao Feng for overestimating himself, but now Zhao Feng was willing to help them. Zhao Feng's strength far surpassed that of a rank 3 quasi-god. With Zhao Feng's help, they would definitely be able to escape. You three, go stop that human. The rank 4 Yao god, Flash Eagle, ordered the 3 Yao gods beside him. Whoosh! 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 Another 3 rank 3 Yao immortals charged at Zhao Feng. As for the remaining 6 Yao immortals, they attacked the Scarlet Stripe tribe with all their might. The Scarlet Stripe race team was heavily injured and had expended a lot of energy. As long as they dealt with these 6 people, they would not need to fear that strange blonde human. 3 rank 3 Yao immortals. This time, when 3 rank 3 Yao immortals charged at Zhao Feng, many of the Scarlet Stripe tribe members grew worried. Don't worry, he still has a companion. Uncle, he said immediately. With these words, the rest of the team relaxed. If Zhao Feng was so powerful, then the beautiful woman accompanying him was definitely no weakling. Boom! Bang! The battle began once more. The Scarlet Stripe race team had found a new lease on life, and their fighting power had multiplied as they charged at Flash Eagle's Yao immortals. Careful! There's something strange about this brat. The 3 rank 3 Yao immortals surrounding Zhao Feng did not attack blindly. The death of their companion was still clearly imprinted in their minds. This time, the 3 of them only needed to temporarily stop Zhao Feng. There was no need to fight to the death with Zhao Feng. But while they did not dare to move, Zhao Feng moved first. Whoosh! Hiss! Zhao Feng transformed into a bolt of lightning that instantly closed in on a rank 3 Yao immortal. So fast! Zhao Feng appeared in front of it, so fast that it had no time to react. Boom! Without another word, Zhao Feng waved his palm, and a 5-colored bolt of lightning coiled around the rank 3 Yao immortal like a giant python. This rank 3 Yao immortal excelled in speed, but Zhao Feng's attack pierced through the void and slashed at it. It could not be dodged. Ah! The rank 3 Yao immortal screamed and flew backward, a ghastly black scar on its body. Zhao Feng's gaze did not change as he looked at the second rank 3 Yao immortal. In 25 years, his space intent had broken through to the 4th level. Now, he could skillfully apply space intent to his movement techniques and attacks, catching others off guard. When Zhao Feng heavily injured the rank 3 Yao immortal, the other 2 rank 3 Yao immortals immediately launched a thunderous attack at Zhao Feng. 2 claw lights with monstrous demonic chi sneaked at Zhao Feng's back. The 2 vicious attacks were about to tear Zhao Feng to shreds. Whoosh! Hiss! Zhao Feng's body crackled with lightning, and with a boom, he flashed several li away. Your attacks can't even keep up with my speed. Zhao Feng jeered at the 2 Yao immortals. Zhao Feng had always been skilled in speed, and now that he had fused his profound space intent with it, he could rely on his speed alone to dodge the attacks of rank 3 true gods. What a profound space intent. On the other side, Uncle He's eyes flashed. Zhao Feng was only a quasi-god, but he had already comprehended the extremely difficult space intent. Moreover, he seemed to be even more accomplished than him. The 3 quasi-gods of the Scarlet Stripe race were stunned by these words. Of the 3 of them, only 2 had just comprehended fire intent, but this was because of their bloodlines. They simply could not comprehend the more profound space intent. Damn, this brat. The rank 4 Flash Eagle could also see that Zhao Feng was a troublesome opponent. It was skilled in light intent and space intent, but it believed that in terms of speed, it could not compare to Zhao Feng. Let's finish this quickly. Zhao Feng threw aside the 2 rank 3 Yao Immortals and charged into the encircled Uncle He's team. Force back the rank 4 Yao Immortals first. Zhao Feng calmly said. Zhao Feng and Uncle He worked together to launch a fierce assault on the Flash Eagle. Zhao Feng's attacks were infused with space intent, making it impossible for the Flash Eagle to dodge. The Flash Eagle's body was only average, and after being struck a few times by Zhao Feng's 5 elements divine power, it began to feel weak. Moreover, the Flash Eagle sensed that Zhao Feng was not even seriously fighting with it. From start to finish, he had not used any supreme techniques. Let's go. The Flash Eagle screeched as it retreated. With the rank 4 Flash Eagle gone, the other Yao Immortals could only retreat. With the Yao Immortals retreating, the Scarlet Stripe race relaxed, their bodies going limp. After all, they had been trapped for 2 months and were exhausted. Many thanks for your Excellency's assistance. Is there anything you 2 need help with? If the Scarlet Stripe race can help, we will do our utmost. Uncle He said with a smile. That's right. Big brother, why are you going to the Xiling zone? The red-clothed girl immediately walked over and stared in surprise at Zhao Feng. Zhao Feng didn't seem very old, but he possessed astonishing fighting power and had even comprehended space intent. Shut up, little she. Uncle He immediately barked. Zhao Feng's strength was not as simple as that of a rank 3 quasi-god. He was assuredly a peak 4-star genius, perhaps even a genius of a 5-star faction. The Scarlet Stripe race could not compare to him. She was far too impulsive to directly ask about the purpose of this trip. She pursed his lips and said no more. We're going to the Xiling zone to find a doctor. Zhao Feng straightforwardly said. This was the first time the pair had come to the Xiling zone. They had no map and didn't know many people. However, the spirit grass gate that Han Ning belonged to had once sent a disciple extremely talented in the medicine Dao to the Xiling zone tens of thousands of years ago. If Han Ning could find a senior from her sect, everything would be fine. What a coincidence. We're also going to the Xiling zone to find a doctor. The red-clothed girl exclaimed before Uncle He could say anything. After asking, the Scarlet Stripe race learned that Zhao Feng did not know where that doctor was or which faction he belonged to. We're also going to a Medicine Dao faction. Why don't the 2 of you come with us to Universal Salvation Hall? Perhaps there's someone there who knows the doctor you're looking for. Uncle He said after a few moments of thought. Zhao Feng possessed extraordinary strength and a limitless future. For this reason, Uncle He wanted to befriend him, so he would help him if he could. Okay. Zhao Feng thought for a few moments before agreeing. They had just come to the Xiling zone and were unfamiliar with the place and people. They wanted to find Han Ning, seniors, but they had no idea where to start. If Han Ning, seniors were doing well, they could easily find them through a few doctors. Zhao Feng set off with the Scarlet Stripe race team. Big brother, is this beautiful big sister as strong as you? She giggled as she examined Han Ning, along the way. She was the #1 beauty of the Scarlet Stripe race, but every time she saw Han Ning, she felt ashamed of her beauty, which she had always been so proud of. Along the way, the other men in the team constantly glanced at Han Ning, infatuation in their eyes. In the life-and-death battle just now, they had no time to pay attention to Han Ning. Now that they were out of danger, they truly realized how beautiful Han Ning was. Although Han Ning had not said a word, she had a wondrous affinity with them. Standing at her side made them feel relaxed and happy, and their injuries healed even faster. "I'm not skilled in battle. I just know a bit of medicine." Han Ning took the initiative to speak. These words caused the eyes of the 6 members of the team to shine. Doctors were an extremely popular profession in the ancient desolate realm of gods. This was because conflicts between factions of the ancient desolate realm of gods were far too common. The Scarlet Stripe race had gone to the Xiling Zone this time to ask for medicine to treat a heavily injured expert of their race. "Miss Han, if you don't mind, please take a look at my injuries," a muscular man in the team said with a smile. The others also expressed their hope that Han Ning could treat them. Their injuries were extremely severe, and the beautiful Han Ning was also a doctor. This was the perfect topic for them to strike up a conversation with. Han Ning did not refuse. She examined their injuries, took out some spirit medicines, and used a secret art to treat their injuries. She came from Spirit Grass Gate, so even without using the Eye of Life, treating some injuries was no problem. "Miss Han's medical skills are so superb. Could you be a doctor from some medicine Dao faction?" These men couldn't help but praise. Because Han Ning had the Eye of Life, her healing abilities were much more effective, so her medical skills were truly not bad. On the way, the members of the Scarlet Stripe race enthusiastically conversed with Zhao Feng and Han Ning. After all, in their view, Zhao Feng was powerful and had limitless potential. Meanwhile, Han Ning was a superb doctor and a stunning beauty, so she was certain to become an outstanding doctor in the future. The group quickly passed through the heaven-towering forest. The Yao Beast attack on the Scarlet Stripe race team earlier was caused by 2 ancient gods, causing the Yao Beasts to go berserk. Now that the team had more people, the Yao Beasts didn't dare to make trouble. 2 ancient gods. Zhao Feng was rather surprised. Ancient gods were very rare. Other than those ancient gods pursuing Zhao Feng, he had never seen any other ancient gods before. But the Scarlet Stripe race had suddenly encountered 2 ancient gods. This made Zhao Feng's heart tremble, and he began to think. Chapter 1239. Universal Salvation Hall was a 4.5-star faction on the outskirts of the Xiling Zone. Because the ones in charge of Universal Salvation Hall were doctors, the status of this faction was even more special and lofty. All the surrounding factions had people who had been treated by Universal Salvation Hall's doctors, and some of the more famous doctors of Universal Salvation Hall had even treated the upper echelons of peak 4-star factions. Thus, while the surrounding factions fought for resources and fought countless battles, they basically did not disturb Universal Salvation Hall. One day, Zhao Feng followed the Scarlet Stripe race group to this Medicine Dao faction. Universal Salvation Hall was located at the base of a cliff, surrounded by green mountains and clear waters. It exuded all kinds of strange fragrances. "We're finally here. Uncle," he revealed a hint of joy. Along the way, Zhao Feng learned that the Scarlet Stripe race patriarch seemed to be afflicted by some strange poison that required special methods to restrain, so he was unable to leave. The Scarlet Stripe race lived on the outskirts of a large zone adjacent to the Xiling Zone and was not very far from Universal Salvation Hall. Thus, the Scarlet Stripe race sent a small team to Universal Salvation Hall on the outskirts of the Xiling Zone to seek treatment. Outside the Universal Salvation Hall, people were questioned and interrogated by the guards one after another. They were all from the surrounding areas and had come to seek treatment. Zhao Feng's group lined up at the back of the long line. "I didn't think that a group of doctors could form a faction." Zhao Feng smiled as he looked at the dazzling Universal Salvation Hall. In Zhao Feng's view, the fundamental reason was that the ancient desolate realm of gods was too unpeaceful. Factions below peak 4-star frequently fought each other. Compared to the continent zone, a powerful doctor was even more useful in the ancient desolate realm of gods. Soon, it was Zhao Feng's group's turn. "What are you doing?" Zhao Feng's group was stopped by 3 guards. These 3 guards were only demigods, but they showed no fear when they looked at Uncle He's group of true god experts. "We are from the Scarlet Stripe race and have come to Universal Salvation Hall to seek treatment. Elder Chen of Universal Salvation Hall's outer sect knows us." Uncle He immediately said. A guard then picked up a communication token and communicated with the person in charge of the hall. After confirming that there were no mistakes, they were finally allowed to pass. Not long after, Zhao Feng's group entered Universal Salvation Hall and saw the Elder Chen that Uncle He spoke of. Uncle He immediately told him about the Scarlet Stripe tribe's patriarch's illness. "Your patriarch is afflicted with the Morning Soul Flame poison. This poison can only be cured by a high-ranking doctor in the Universal Salvation Hall's inner court." Elder Chen revealed a troubled expression. The expressions of the Scarlet Stripe race members did not look too good. According to Elder Chen, they needed to invite a rank 5 Universal Salvation Hall doctor with superb medical skills. Furthermore, they needed to invite a doctor into the tribe to personally treat the Scarlet Stripe tribe's patriarch. Originally, it was already extremely expensive to hire such a doctor, and all kinds of natural treasures were their expenses. Now that they had to invite the doctor back, they would have to pay the doctor extra for the time they wasted. However, for the sake of the Scarlet Stripe tribe's patriarch, there was no other way. Then, Elder Chen prepared to lead the crowd to the inner area. During this time, Zhao Feng had asked the elder if he knew the elder from the same sect as Han Ning'er, but the elder had never heard of him. Under Elder Chen's guidance, Zhao Feng and the others arrived at the inner court of the Universal Salvation Hall. The inner court of the Universal Salvation Hall was very quiet, and the air was filled with a strange fragrance. A casual breath of it would make one feel extremely comfortable, as if it had some special healing effect. In an antique pavilion, the Scarlet Stripe tribe members stood cautiously to the side. In front of them sat a doctor dressed in a white robe. At this time, he was sipping a mouthful of fragrant tea. His calm and proud gaze fell on the crowd. "Curing the poison will cost 600 mid-grade divine crystals. You will be responsible for all the medicinal herbs consumed. In addition, this trip will waste at least 2 years of my time, so you will need to pay me an additional 400 mid-grade divine crystals," the white-robed doctor said indifferently. To the side, Zhao Feng was stunned. Not including the cost of medicinal herbs, the Scarlet Stripe tribe needed to pay 1,000 mid-grade divine crystals, which was equivalent to 100,000 low-grade divine crystals. He remembered that when Zhao Feng cultivated in the cultivation tower for a month, he had only spent 100 low-grade divine crystals. But now, curing a single poison would cost 100,000 low-grade divine crystals. This was no small sum for a 4.5-star faction. Now that I've come to the Xiling zone, it's about time for Zhao Hui to join a Medicine Dao faction. Zhao Feng thought to himself. Only in this sort of faction could Zhao Hui's Medicine Dao rapidly mature and be of use to Zhao Feng. The 3 quasi-gods of the Scarlet Stripe race were dumbfounded by this number. Only Uncle He and the other 2 rank 3 true gods remained silent, their eyes gloomy. Before coming, Elder Chen had given them a rough estimate of the cost. It should have been 60,000 low-grade divine crystals, which was in line with the price they had in mind. But this white-robed doctor's price was too high. "You have to realize that your patriarch is an ancient god. This price is already considered cheap." The white-robed doctor looked at their faces and gave a disdainful smile. He had seen this sort of situation many times before. "Think it over and give me an answer." With these words, the white-robed doctor took his leave. "Good sir, please wait." At this moment, Zhao Feng spoke. The white-robed doctor that had just walked past Zhao Feng stopped and arrogantly looked at Zhao Feng. But suddenly, the doctor's gaze shifted to Han Ning'er, who was standing next to Zhao Feng, and a sharp light flashed through his eyes. Han Ning was not only devastatingly beautiful, but her entire body exuded a pure vitality. This was definitely an excellent constitution for cultivating the medicine Tao. The white-robed doctor had never seen a constitution as suited to cultivating the medicine Tao as Han Ning was. "I wish to ask Senior about a person," Zhao Feng suddenly said. "This is not the place to ask about information." The white-robed doctor impatiently glanced at Zhao Feng, and then he continued to examine Han Ning. Zhao Feng's brow creased. The doctors here were far too heartless. He couldn't even ask about a single person. "Little girl, are you willing to stay in Universal Salvation Hall? This old man just happens to be lacking a disciple. If you are willing to stay, you can directly become a core disciple of Universal Salvation Hall." The white-robed doctor immediately turned to Han Ning, a smile on his face. He was confident that Han Ning had already seen the noble status of a doctor and would definitely not refuse his invitation. But to his surprise, Han Ning turned a questioning gaze to Zhao Feng. "No, we have other matters to attend to." Zhao Feng's face was cold as he directly refused. Han Ning possessed the eye of life, so how could she stay in a 4.5-star faction? Moreover, even if it was a medicine Dao faction, a 4.5-star faction was not something that Zhao Feng could use to contact the spiritual race. En route, Zhao Feng learned from the Scarlet Stripe race group that the spiritual race was a 5-star faction of the Xiling Zone. Zhao Yufei's spiritual race bloodline had caused a spiritual race expert to descend to the lower realms and take her away. From this, one could see just how much importance the spiritual race placed on Zhao Yufei. She was not someone that Zhao Feng could meet just because he wanted to. The white-robed doctor instantly grimaced at Zhao Feng's refusal. "Little girl, you can reconsider. Universal Salvation Hall is the strongest 4.5-star faction in this area. Even some peak 4-star factions will give Universal Salvation Hall some face." The white-robed doctor ignored Zhao Feng and continued to persuade Han Ning. "Let's go," Zhao Feng calmly said, and then he bid farewell to the Scarlet Stripe race group. Zhao Feng had come to this 4.5-star faction because he wanted to find Han Ning, seniors through this doctor. Of course, there were many other ways to find someone. "Slow down. She must stay." The white-robed doctor barked, the pressure of a rank 5 true god spreading out. The Scarlet Stripe race group was stunned. They had brought Zhao Feng and Han Ning here, but they hadn't expected for Zhao Feng and Han Ning to end up in such a quarrel with this doctor. Moreover, this person was a rank 5 true god and a doctor, and this was Universal Salvation Hall. They didn't dare to stop him. Zhao Feng's brow creased, his eyes flashing with cold light. With his current strength, he had no need to fear a rank 5 true god, and his opponent was a rank 5 true god who was not skilled in combat. Crucially, Universal Salvation Hall was a 4.5-star faction with an ancient god presiding over it. Moreover, Universal Salvation Hall had an extremely high prestige in this area. If Zhao Feng angered Universal Salvation Hall, he would be provoking all the factions in the area. Zhao Feng had only just arrived in the Xiling Zone, so he really didn't want to cause a ruckus like this. "Heh, can you detain her?" Zhao Feng's expression relaxed as he sneered. "Universal Salvation Hall can't detain her." The white-robed doctor's face twitched at the sight of Zhao Feng's expression. A trifling quasi-god dared to speak to him like this? At this moment, the white-robed doctor even wanted to detain these two and kill Zhao Feng while he imprisoned Han Ning, to slowly persuade her. However, the Scarlet Stripe race group was still nearby. If he did this, he would have to get rid of them as well. Zhao Feng looked at Han Ning and nodded. Han Ning's dark green eyes instantly focused on the white-robed doctor. All of a sudden, her eyes sparkled with a layer of green light. A flow of immense life power Upanishad diffused from her. This pure life intent made everyone present feel refreshed, their blood flow faster, and their organs feel extremely comfortable. It was as if their lifespan had been increased by several dozen years. Several dozen years of lifespan wasn't much to a true god, but to be able to increase their lifespan by several dozen years just by being touched by this intent energy was rather absurd. The 6 members of the Scarlet Stripe race stared in shock at Han Ning, confused as to how she could have such an ability. But the white-robed doctor was completely dumbfounded, his eyes bulging as he stared at Han Ning, his breathing ragged. At the same time, several powerful divine senses shot out of Universal Salvation Hall's inner sanctum and swept over the hall. When they saw Han Ning'er's eyes, they immediately stood up and leaped out. In a flash, 2 rank 5 true gods and 1 rank 6 true god appeared in the hall. The members of the Scarlet Stripe race trembled in fear. They had no idea why so many true god experts had come to this place. "Good sir, may I ask if you are a descendant of the life god Eye?" At this moment, the rank 6 true god with 2 green horns and a goatee whispered. "The Eye of Life." The Scarlet Stripe race members all stared at Han Ning, and when they saw her eyes twinkling with dark green light, they gasped. Chapter 1240. If the descendants of the 8 great god eyes didn't display their abilities, it would be very difficult to tell them apart. This was why no one had noticed that Han Ning, was a descendant of the Eye of Life. Within the hall, Han Ning, who had activated her Eye of Life, was like the goddess of life of this forest. She was bathed in green vitality, divine and flawless. Big Sister Han is actually a descendant of the Eye of Life. She of the Scarlet Stripe race had her mouth wide open, her eyes brimming with reverence. In her eyes, God Eye descendants were comparable to the top 50 bloodlines of the 10,000 ancient races, the noblest of bloodlines. Now, she would not compare herself to Han Ning'er. How could this be? The white-robed doctor was stunned for a long while before finally spitting out these words. With the Eye of Life, even if one didn't study the medicine Tao, they could still rely on their eyes to easily treat the various injuries and illnesses of others. Once they began to study the medicine Tao, the abilities of the Eye of Life could be used to their fullest potential. A doctor with the Eye of Life was undoubtedly the most important person in the ancient desolate realm of gods. Universal Salvation Hall could be considered a 4.5-star faction in the area, but it truly couldn't contain a descendant of the Eye of Life. Once other major factions discovered that Universal Salvation Hall had an Eye of Life descendant, they might throw caution to the wind and attack Universal Salvation Hall to steal away the Eye of Life descendant. Elder Shu, the rank 6 true god of Universal Salvation Hall, fiercely called out. The white-robed doctor trembled. "Young lady, this Shu was blind. What I said just now was just a joke. Please don't take it to heart." The white-robed doctor greeted her with a smile. Once a person with the Eye of Life entered a powerful faction, they would receive their full support, and their future achievements would surpass any doctor of Universal Salvation Hall. The members of the Scarlet Stripe race stared in shock at the white-robed doctor. This arrogant and disdainful inner sect doctor was now bowing his head and apologizing to Han Ning. The contrast between the past and the present was simply too great. Was it a joke? Just now, Elder Shu almost attacked this junior. At this moment, Zhao Feng sneered. If he hadn't told Han Ning, to use the abilities of the Eye of Life, this Elder Shu might have already attacked them. Misunderstanding. The white-robed doctor smiled awkwardly, but in his heart, he was cursing Zhao Feng. "May I know why the two of you are here?" The rank 6 true god of Universal Salvation Hall asked. Just now, Universal Salvation Hall's Elder Shu had obviously offended these 2 young men. Thus, this rank 6 true god hoped that he could do his best to help Zhao Feng and Luo Ruoxin in exchange for a favorable impression. "I wondered if Senior has heard of you Bingqing." Han Ning put away her Eye of Life and asked. "You Bingqing, could it be that you're talking about the life origin sex Elder Yu? After a few moments of silence, the rank 6 true god's eyes flashed with a sharp light, and he became even more enthusiastic about Han Ning. The life origin sect was also a faction that focused mainly on doctors. However, it was a peak 4-star great sect, and its fame spread far and wide. I'm not sure. I only know this person's name. Han Ning shook her head. From the appearance of this rank 6 true god, Yu Bingqing seemed to be extremely famous. Zhao Feng's expression was unperturbed. The name was the same, but that did not mean that he was the person Han Ning was looking for. Soon after, Zhao Feng and Luo Ruoxin requested that the rank 6 true god of Universal Salvation Hall send a letter to Elder Yu of the Life Origin sect. The letter explained some of Han Ning situation. If this Elder Yu really was the senior of the same sect that Han Ning was looking for, he would naturally make some arrangements. During this period, Zhao Feng and Luo Ruoxin took up residence. One day, the 6 members of the Scarlet Stripe race prepared to return. This time, it was all thanks to Brother Zhao. The Scarlet Stripe race is eternally grateful. The Scarlet Stripe race gratefully bid farewell to Zhao Feng and Luo Ruoxin. Traveling with them was the white-robed doctor of Universal Salvation Hall. At the request of Universal Salvation Hall, he had gone to the Scarlet Stripe race to treat the Scarlet Stripe race patriarch's poison for free. Goodbye, Brother Zhao, Sister Han. She waved her hand and bid farewell to Zhao Feng and Luo Ruoxin. The white-robed doctor had a mournful expression on his face as he followed the Scarlet Stripe race out of Universal Salvation Hall. Just wait. It won't be long before there's news. Zhao Feng said to Han Ning before returning to his own residence. Swish. Zhao Feng took out the space-time robe and entered its dimension. Nearby, the little thieving cat's egg was still quietly lying there, motionless. Master. The Black Destruction Serpent Dragon respectfully said. In the last 25 years, Zhao Feng had spent most of his time traveling, but the Black Destruction Serpent Dragon had truly been cultivating in the spacetime robe for 250 years. Its cultivation had already recovered to the level of a rank 5 true god, only one rank away from its peak. In this period of time, the Black Destruction Serpent Dragon had used quite a few intent crystals, so its fire intent was even stronger than it had been at its peak. On the other side, Zhao Wang was still cultivating, his face callous and his eyes frighteningly sinister. Zhao Hui was reading books, identifying herbs, and analyzing their properties. Zhao Wan was responsible for expanding the ancient dream realm and providing cultivation resources for everyone else. Zhao Feng went to his usual cultivation area and seated himself cross-legged on the ground. Swish! 2 translucent crystal pearls floated in front of Zhao Feng, crackling with countless arcs of lightning. These were the lightning god crystals that Xian Wuheng had given to Zhao Feng. He had duplicated many of them for his cultivation needs. The 12th level of the 5 elemental wind lightning technique, 5 elements tribulation lightning divine power. Fuse lightning energy infused with tribulation lightning intent into the 5 elements divine power to increase its destructive power. Zhao Feng circulated the 5 elemental wind lightning technique, absorbing the tribulation lightning energy from the lightning god crystals and fusing it into the divine power vortex in his body. The 12th level was the final level. Once it was completed, the technique would be perfected. At that time, Zhao Feng would break into the true god realm. Swish! While Zhao Feng was cultivating the 5 elements tribulation lightning divine power, he was also using this divine power and tribulation lightning energy to refine the sacred lightning body. The sacred lightning body had a total of 7 levels, and Zhao Feng had already reached the peak of the 7th level, only a step away from perfection. However, this step was very difficult to cross. Ordinary tribulation lightning energy could no longer refine it. 5 days later, Universal Salvation Hall sent a message. The Life Origin Sect's Elder Yu truly was a senior from the same sect as Han Ning. I didn't think that the two of you really would know Elder Yu of the Life Origin sect. If this is the case, Miss Han will be greatly nurtured in the Life Origin sect, and her future will be bright. The rank 6 true god of Universal Salvation Hall said with a smile. Even the ancient god expert of Universal Salvation Hall came out of seclusion to meet with the pair. That night, Universal Salvation Hall held a banquet for Zhao Feng and Han Ning. Many of Universal Salvation Hall's doctors and the young geniuses of the nearby factions gathered. After the night, Universal Salvation Hall personally sent people to escort Zhao Feng and Han Ning to the peak 4-star faction, the Life Origin sect. Once you're at the Life Origin sect, don't rely too much on this senior. You have to rely on yourself for everything. On the way, Zhao Feng warned. The letter sent by Universal Salvation Hall did not clearly state that Han Ning was a descendant of the Eye of Life. If this was clearly stated, the Life Origin sect's Yu Bingqing would probably come in person. From this, one could see that Yu Bingqing's attitude toward Han Ning was very ordinary. When are you going to find the person you're looking for? Han Ning lowered her head and softly asked. When she arrived at the Xiling zone, Han Ning believed that Zhao Feng would be leaving soon. Very soon. Zhao Feng simply replied. Using Universal Salvation Hall's reputation, Zhao Feng's group continued to use teleportation arrays. 2 months later, the group smoothly arrived at the Life Origin sect. With the introduction of a member of Universal Salvation Hall, the pair met with Elder Yu of the Life Origin sect. This Elder Yu had the appearance of a middle-aged man and was dressed like a doctor, but he had a more medical aura than the white-robed doctor of Universal Salvation Hall. Elder Yu was a rank 6 true god, only one step away from becoming an ancient god, but this step was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Senior Yu, I am a disciple of Spirit Grass Gate. Han Ning took the initiative to say. You. Elder Yu's indifferent gaze immediately turned to Han Ning and began to carefully examine her. He originally believed that Spirit Grass Gate knew that he was doing well here, so it had sent a few disciples for him to support. He hadn't expected for Spirit Grass Gate to send such a beauty. Moreover, Han Ning's constitution was extremely unique, a perfect constitution for cultivating the medicine Tao. Elder Yu gazed at Han Ning with an infatuated look in his eyes. This woman is devastatingly beautiful and has a unique constitution. She has a great future ahead of her. She can be my cultivation companion. Elder Yu began to calculate in his mind. Before this, Elder Yu had wanted to find a companion and use a secret dual cultivation technique to help him break through into the ancient god realm. Han Ning, who had delivered herself to his doorstep, had an impeccable appearance and an excellent constitution. Senior Yu, I am a descendant of the Eye of Life. Han Ning slightly activated her Eye of Life and said. In front of her, Elder Yu, who had been carefully examining Han Ning, suddenly froze, his body going stiff as he stared into Han Ning's dark green eyes. After a long while, Elder Yu revealed a pleasantly surprised smile. Good, good. This was all Elder Yu could say after a long while. Her gaze remained fixed on Han Ning, unable to shift away. The Eye of Life. You will definitely receive an important position in the Life Origin sect. Elder Yu laughed in pleasant surprise. After that, Han Ning'er and Elder Yu chatted about the Spirit Grass Gate. In Han Ning'er's heart, Elder Yu was a member of Spirit Grass Gate, so she treated him as a respected elder and told him everything that had happened to Spirit Grass Gate. Relax, I will make Yellow Dragon Pavilion pay a price. Elder Yu solemnly vowed to Han Ning'er. After chatting for a long while, Elder Yu's gaze finally fell on Zhao Feng. It was young Master Zhao who safely escorted me to the Xiling zone. Han Ning'er hastily introduced. Many thanks to this little brother for the journey. If you have any needs or requests, please ask. This you will agree to anything within my power. Elder Yu attentively stared at Zhao Feng as he courteously said. He could naturally tell that Zhao Feng was not ordinary. Otherwise, how could a quasi-god have safely escorted Han Ning, to the Xiling zone? Moreover, he could also tell that Han Ning, was rather interested in this golden-haired boy. Has Senior heard of the spiritual races Zhao Yufei? Zhao Feng bluntly asked. This Elder Yu was an elder of a peak 4-star faction and a doctor. He had many connections and might be able to help Zhao Feng. You know her? Elder Yu's expression suddenly shifted as he stared in shock at Zhao Feng, deep doubt in his eyes. Zhao Feng's mind jolted. From Elder Yu's expression, he could tell that Zhao Yufei truly was with the spiritual race faction of the Xiling zone. Chapter 1241. You know her. Elder Yu's expression suddenly shifted as he stared in shock at Zhao Feng, deep suspicion in his eyes. The spiritual race was one of the 4 5-star factions of the Xiling zone, and he recognized some of its heavyweight prodigies. Among them, the spiritual race's Zhao Yufei was an extremely extraordinary individual. She stood above all but one, and she was the hope of the spiritual race's future. Impossible. This brat can't possibly know Zhao Yufei. Elder Yu inwardly rejected this idea. Zhao Feng came from the Gulong zone, and his bloodline was ordinary. How could he possibly be related to Zhao Yufei of the Xiling zone? Elder Yu was even more convinced that Zhao Feng was an admirer of Zhao Yufei, that he viewed her as the goddess of his dreams and simply wanted to meet her. Zhao Yufei, of the spiritual race. Han Ning, softly muttered in surprise. She knew that this was the person Zhao Feng was looking for, and this person was actually in the spiritual race, a 5-star faction. It was no wonder Zhao Feng was so concerned about her that he would travel such a great distance to meet her. Is there any way for me to meet her or contact her? Zhao Feng directly asked. Zhao Feng estimated that this Elder Yu would not be able to help him. Thus, if Zhao Feng was really unable to help Elder Yu with his urgent question, Zhao Feng would immediately leave and find another way. This, Elder Yu's brow creased in silence. The spiritual race was a 5-star faction, and the Life Origin sect was under its rule. He was just an ordinary elder of the Life Origin sect. He truly did not have a way for Zhao Feng to meet the prodigy of the spiritual race, Zhao Yufei. If I can't resolve this brat's problem, he'll definitely stay here and refuse to leave. Elder Yu thought to himself. Han Ning, was clearly interested in Zhao Feng. If Zhao Feng stayed here, the two of them would easily get together. After all, the two of them had come to the Xiling zone together and experienced many things together. Han Ning, was also a descendant of the Eye of Life, so her appearance and demeanor were impeccable. Senior Yu, please help him. Han Ning said in a low voice. I can use my connections to let you enter the spirit race, but only as a servant disciple. After a long time, Elder Yu spoke. In a faction, the odd job disciples were just menial workers. Normally, they had no chance of coming into contact with the important figures of the spirit race. Above the servant disciples were the periphery disciples. Only by becoming a periphery disciple would one truly be considered a member of the spirit race and be protected by the spirit race. However, the spirit tribe was a 5-star faction. No matter how powerful Elder Yu's connections were, he couldn't allow an unknown person to become a peripheral disciple of the spirit tribe. Little brother, I can see that you're strong and talented. Even if you're a menial disciple, if you do well, it won't take long for you to be promoted to a periphery disciple. Elder Yu knew that the status of a menial disciple was too low. A servant disciple. Zhao Feng frowned and fell into deep thought. First of all, if he became a menial disciple, he wouldn't be able to see Zhao Yufei. However, Elder Yu was right. If a menial disciple did well, he would have a chance to become a periphery disciple. If you're not willing, you can choose to wait another 80 years. In 80 years, the spirit race will recruit new disciples. With your abilities, you should be able to easily enter. Elder Yu continued. Even if he didn't say this, Zhao Feng would still be able to find out. 80 years was not a long time for cultivators. Some true gods could even go into seclusion for several hundred years at a time. Young Master Zhao, why don't you stay here for now and go to the spirit race in 80 years? At this time, Han Ning'er began to persuade Zhao Feng to stay. The status of a menial disciple was too low. No faction would care about the life or death of a menial disciple. Moreover, with how outstanding Zhao Feng was, Han Ning'er couldn't bear to make him do menial work. Then I'll have to trouble Senior Yu. I want to go to the spirit race. Zhao Feng said after thinking for a moment. 80 years was not something that Zhao Feng could wait. It would also be very difficult for him to enter the spirit race through any other means. Han Ning'er's eyes dimmed. Zhao Feng was willing to do menial work just to enter the spirit race and meet Zhao Yufei. Okay. Wait a little while, and I'll arrange for you to go to the spirit race. Elder Yu rejoiced. In his view, Zhao Feng was Zhao Yufei's admirer and was doing everything in his power to meet her. Elder Yu didn't care about that. He just wanted to send off Zhao Feng as soon as possible so that Han Ning'er would forget about him. After arranging a residence for Zhao Feng and Han Ning'er, Elder Yu took his leave. Upon returning to his residence, Zhao Feng habitually returned to the spacetime robe and cultivated for a while. Many rhombus-shaped five-colored crystals floated in front of Zhao Feng. The pure intent energy of the five elements permeated the air around Zhao Feng, allowing him to comprehend them. Two of Zhao Feng's five elements intent had already reached level 4. Once he reached level 4 with the other three, his five elements divine power would get even stronger. After a while, the five-colored crystals in front of him slowly dimmed, turning back into ordinary crystals. Swish! Zhao Feng took out the three vine fruits. These fruits contained intent energy that could help Zhao Feng increase his intent and refine his soul. Because of the technique he cultivated, some aspects of Zhao Feng were extremely powerful. However, Zhao Feng's soul intent was still stuck at the rank 3 true god level, making it difficult for it to advance any further. As a result, some of his eye bloodline techniques could not keep up with Zhao Feng's level. However, as long as Zhao Feng broke into the true god level and attained a certain rank of the heavenly divine realm, his soul intent would evolve and reach that rank. One day, Zhao Feng and Han Ning'er met. It wouldn't be long before Zhao Feng left the Life Origin sect for the spiritual race. On the journey to the Xiling Zone, the two had gone through thick and thin together and had become friends who could talk about anything. Zhao Feng was still rather reluctant to part with her. Who is she to you? Is she worth doing so much for? Han Ning'er curiously asked. I promised her that I would go find her. After a long while, Zhao Feng finally replied. As for Han Ning'er's first question, Zhao Feng didn't know how to answer it. I hope that you can see her soon. Han Ning'er smiled as she wished him well. Zhao Feng nodded and leisurely strolled through the Life Origin sect with Han Ning'er. The Life Origin sect was a peak 4-star faction of the Xiling Zone. Most of its members were doctors, so its status was even more special. If not for the worry of Zhao Yufei, Zhao Feng wouldn't have minded staying in this faction to cultivate and slowly develop. Several days later, Elder Yu found Zhao Feng. We can set out. Elder Yu said with a warm smile. After bidding farewell to Han Ning'er, Zhao Feng was led by the Life Origin sect elder on a journey to the spiritual race. When Zhao Feng left the Life Origin sect, a blue-clothed man stood near the Life Origin sect. His face was as white as jade, and he exuded a refined aura. This person was Zhao Feng's clone, Zhao Hui. Zhao Feng planned to have Zhao Hui stay in the Life Origin sect to cultivate the medicine Dao. On the other hand, Zhao Feng sensed that there was something off about this Elder Yu. Han Ning'er possessed the Eye of Life, but ever since Han Ning'er arrived at the Life Origin sect, the Life Origin sect had shown no signs of activity. From this, one could see that Elder Yu had not reported this matter to his superiors. Thus, Zhao Feng had Zhao Hui stay here so that he could infiltrate the Life Origin sect, and they recruited disciples. The spiritual race was one of the 4 5-star factions of the Xiling Zone, ruling over a quarter of the Xiling Zone's territory. Its faction naturally could not be on the outskirts of the Xiling Zone. Fortunately, with an elder of the Life Origin sect leading the way, Zhao Feng's group was able to use the teleportation arrays of 4.5-star and peak 4-star factions. After more than half a year, Zhao Feng arrived at the spiritual race. What greeted his eyes were massive crystalline mountains of various colors. Strangely, these crystalline mountains were covered in lush greenery and clear water, as well as the chirping of birds and the fragrance of flowers. It was like a crystalline paradise. What thick heaven-earth yuan qi. Even before entering the spiritual race, Zhao Feng's left eye sensed the pure and thick heaven-earth yuan qi drifting in the center of the spiritual race. Zhao Feng estimated that there was at least a high-quality god crystal vein beneath the spiritual race's territory. Of course, the area covered by a high-quality god crystal vein was definitely the core area of the spiritual race. Only the core disciples and upper echelon members of the spiritual race could use it. After a series of inspections, Zhao Feng smoothly arrived at the spiritual race. After receiving the items that a worker disciple should have, Zhao Feng became a worker disciple of the spiritual race, a 5-star faction. In the spiritual race, as long as you don't offend a core disciple. The elder of the Life Origin sect warned Zhao Feng before leaving. If Zhao Feng accidentally offended a core disciple, the group of people that had recommended him would be in big trouble. Outside the spiritual race, in the Celestial River Valley, Zhao Feng, wearing the uniform of a worker disciple, arrived near a crystalline palace. I am Zhao Feng, a worker disciple who has just arrived. Attendant Lu, please assign me a mission. Zhao Feng calmly said. As a worker disciple, there was only work to do. Go to the spirit herb area in the northwest and tend to the spirit herbs in the 4th field. After a long while, a voice came out from inside. Among the items that Zhao Feng received was a basic map of the outer regions of the spiritual race. Zhao Feng quickly arrived at the 4th field in the spirit herb area. The herbs planted here were all for the use of mystic light realms. That brat must be new. Zhao Feng's arrival attracted the attention of the other worker disciples in the spirit herb area. Many disciples shook their heads and sighed, looking at Zhao Feng with pity. At this moment, a man with thick eyebrows strode over from the 1st field in the spirit herb area. Peng Zhuo came out. It's his fault for being new. Plus, Peng Zhuo's methods aren't too rough. Some of the nearby worker disciples discussed as they watched the show. Brat, you're new, right? I'll leave the work here to you in the future. Peng Zhuo arrived in front of Zhao Feng. He was tall and muscular, 2 heads taller than Zhao Feng. Attendant Lu won't say anything if I help you. Zhao Feng asked curiously. It's fine as long as the mission is completed. Why would he care who completed it? Peng Zhuo laughed as he looked down on Zhao Feng, as if he was certain that he would win. Oh, so there's no problem finding someone else to complete the mission. Zhao Feng nodded his head. I'll leave this field to you. Take good care of it for me. Zhao Feng said before returning to a building not far away. That house was where the odd job disciples resided. Brat, what did you just say? Peng Zhuo's expression became angry as he roared, and an invisible violent aura spread. The newcomer really was new and didn't know how high heaven and earth were. He could only use methods to make him submit. It's over. This newcomer doesn't know how strong Peng Zhuo is and dares to talk back to him. He'll be well behaved after I teach him a lesson. The nearby worker disciples revealed expressions as if they were watching a show. Chapter 1242. Brat, what did you just say? Peng Shuo roared with an enraged expression, and an invisible violent aura spread. A newcomer was a newcomer and didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. He could only use methods to make him submit. Is there something wrong with your ears? Did you not hear what I just said? Zhao Feng suddenly turned around and asked curiously. Hearing that, the surrounding worker disciples laughed coldly and sighed in their hearts that Zhao Feng really didn't know what was good for him. Peng Shuo was one of the strongest worker disciples in the Spirit Herb district, and his cultivation had reached the late stages of the mystic light realm. You're courting death. Peng Shuo was unable to contain his anger. He circulated his mystic light sacred power and charged toward Zhao Feng. Peng Shuo's giant body was about to send Zhao Feng flying. Everyone seemed to hear Zhao Feng's screams and see his painful appearance. However, when Peng Shuo arrived in front of Zhao Feng, he stopped and lost all of his momentum. What's going on? Why isn't Peng Shuo attacking? A nearby worker disciple exclaimed in surprise. However, only Peng Shuo knew that it wasn't that he didn't want to attack, but that he couldn't. In front of Zhao Feng, his bloodline and sacred power were frozen. He couldn't circulate them, and even his soul was restricted. He couldn't do anything. What made him even more terrified was that Zhao Feng didn't seem to be doing anything at all. All he did was look at him quietly with a faint smile on his face. How is this possible? What cultivation is this person at? Peng Shuo howled in his heart. However, he suddenly realized that he couldn't even make a sound without Zhao Feng's permission. Peng Shuo became even more terrified, and his eyes started to tremble as he looked at Zhao Feng. I'll leave all my missions to you. Listen up, this time. Zhao Feng slowly spoke at this moment before turning around and walking into the wooden room. Peng Shuo felt like a heavy burden had been lifted off his chest after Zhao Feng left, and he collapsed onto the ground. What's going on? Peng Shuo didn't attack. This new person seems to be very strong. Some worker disciples were surprised that Peng Shuo didn't attack, but those with sharp eyes could tell that Zhao Feng wasn't normal. They had to be careful in the future and not offend Zhao Feng. No matter how well a worker disciple performed, it would take a while before they could become a periphery disciple. And thus, Zhao Feng could not be in too much of a rush. After returning to his room, he immediately began to cultivate. Zhao Feng started to cultivate the 5 elemental wind lightning technique and the golden Kun sacred lightning body out of habit. Secondly, he started to study the spacetime ocular techniques, spatial lock eyes and spacetime seal. Although Zhao Feng had started to comprehend the spatial lock eye a long time ago, he had never focused on it, so he wasn't able to fully utilize its power. As for the spacetime seal, it was a high-class divine-level eye bloodline technique that Zhao Feng had yet to cultivate. Space intent had reached level for a long time ago, but time intent was still at level 1, and he was still a distance away from level 2. Zhao Feng had long ago reached level 4 in space intent, but the higher level time intent was still at level 1, still some distance away from level 2. This. I've already done as you said and taken good care of this land. Peng Shuo immediately ran over to Zhao Feng and said respectfully. Peng Shuo immediately ran up to Zhao Feng and respectfully said. They hadn't expected Peng Shuo to actually do as Zhao Feng said and take good care of this spirit herb land. They hadn't expected Peng Shuo to really do as Zhao Feng said and take good care of this spirit herb land. When Zhao Feng came out, Peng Shuo reported the situation to his boss like a little brother. Well done. Zhao Feng said simply before leaving. Every month, the worker disciples had to submit missions to their superiors and receive the corresponding rewards based on the completion of the missions. Not bad. Deacon Lu took out some rewards and gave them to Zhao Feng. He knew the situation in the spirit herb area like the back of his hand. This time, Deacon Lu inspected Zhao Feng. However, under close inspection, Deacon Lu found that he couldn't see through Zhao Feng at all. Deacon Lu, I want to take some more missions. Zhao Feng said with a smile. Zhao Feng then took 4 missions from Deacon Liu. After returning to the spirit herb area, Zhao Feng handed the rewards he had just received to Peng Zhuo. Inside were some mystic light realm cultivation resources and primal crystal stones, but they were like trash to Zhao Feng. He wouldn't even be able to put them in his interspatial dimension. Zhao Feng then went to the corresponding areas for the other 4 missions. Looking around, Zhao Feng found a random worker disciple and released a wisp of pressure to make the others submit and work for him willingly. After doing all this, Zhao Feng returned to his residence and began to cultivate. What Zhao Feng didn't know was that his actions had already incurred the wrath of the worker disciples in the spirit herb area and the nearby areas. In secret, the worker disciples of these areas gathered together and prepared to work together against Zhao Feng. In their view, Zhao Feng was just a worker disciple who had just arrived, but his actions were too domineering. Just as they were secretly discussing, a cry of surprise came from outside. Shi Weinan has returned. Soon, a well-proportioned man with a handsome face and a pair of cold eyes walked in. The odd job disciples, who were secretly discussing, were immediately shocked and stopped talking. This Shi Weinan was the #1 worker disciple in the entire Ice River Valley, and his cultivation had reached the demigod level. Apparently, he had come to the spiritual race as a worker disciple in order to become a periphery disciple through good performance. Some time ago, he had gone out with a periphery disciple to complete a mission. Now that he had returned, he believed that it wouldn't be long before he could leave the ranks of the workers and become a periphery disciple of the spiritual race. Boss Shi, you're finally back. There's a new worker disciple here recently, and he's very arrogant. Peng Zhuo immediately embellished Zhao Feng's actions and then told Shi Weinan about them. Could it be that this person doesn't care about me? Shi Weinan's eyes narrowed, and the surrounding temperature dropped a few degrees. Seeing that Shi Weinan had decided to make a move, all the worker disciples present grew excited. Every day, someone would keep an eye on Zhao Feng's room. As soon as Zhao Feng appeared, they would inform the others. But Zhao Feng didn't care about anything else. He only thought about submitting his mission in a month and then accepting a few more missions. Thus, during this month, Zhao Feng wholeheartedly devoted himself to cultivation. A month later, dozens of worker disciples had gathered in front of Zhao Feng's room. Their leader was Shi Weinan, and the few other odd job disciples around him were all outstanding ones. Peng Zhuo was one of them. It's been a month, and that kid still hasn't come out. Could it be that he knows we're going to deal with him and is hiding inside? Behind them, some of the worker disciples who were waiting to watch a good show discussed animatedly. Zhao Feng, hurry up and come out. Worker disciples must report their missions to Attendant Liu every month. At this moment, Shi Weinan, who was at the very front, suddenly shouted. This voice contained a powerful aura and soul strength, and it rumbled out. The room that Zhao Feng was in immediately began to creak. At the same time, the wooden door to Zhao Feng's room was pushed open. You're Zhao Feng. Shi Weinan stared coldly at Zhao Feng, a hint of a playful sneer on his face. To everyone's surprise, Zhao Feng's expression was cold as he walked towards Shi Weinan. At first, Shi Weinan didn't sense anything, but as Zhao Feng approached, his expression changed dramatically. When Zhao Feng arrived in front of Shi Weinan, his entire body was restrained. He couldn't move, and he couldn't even make a sound. The other worker disciples behind Shi Weinan were all in the same situation. They stood rooted to the ground like stone statues, their eyes filled with shock. Peng Zhuo was in a miserable state. He'd thought that with so many people and Shi Weinan, they would be able to deal with Zhao Feng. But the result was the same. Before Zhao Feng, everyone lost control of their bodies. How is this possible? Shi Weinan was incomparably shocked. He struggled with all his might, but discovered that everything he did was futile. If there's a next time, I'll kill you without mercy. Zhao Feng's gaze swept over the crowd as he coldly declared. Although his last 3 words were spoken very softly, they were like icicles stabbing into everyone's hearts. Zhao Feng didn't want to expose too much of himself, but if he didn't teach these people a lesson they wouldn't forget, they might come back to make trouble for him. For this reason, Zhao Feng needed to fiercely intimidate them. Zhao Feng left and headed for Attendant Lu's residence. This Zhao Feng is so strong. If he's so strong, why did he come here to be a worker disciple? After Zhao Feng left, everyone sat paralyzed on the ground and began to whisper to each other. This time, when Zhao Feng arrived at Attendant Lu's palace, Attendant Lu was already standing in the hall, seemingly waiting for Zhao Feng. You should be a powerful quasi-god. Why did you come to the spiritual race to be a worker disciple? Attendant Lu's expression was dignified. If I want to enter the spiritual race, I can only start as a worker disciple. Zhao Feng told the truth. He didn't want to offend Attendant Lu. If he wanted to become a periphery disciple, he needed Attendant Lu's recommendation. As long as you perform well, you can become a periphery disciple in less than half a year. Attendant Lu gave a slight nod, a hint of pride in his eyes. A quasi-god with such potential had come to the spiritual race to be a worker disciple in order to climb up and become a periphery disciple. As a member of the spiritual race, Attendant Lu was extremely proud. I also want to ask Attendant Lu about someone. Zhao Feng suddenly said. Oh. Attendant Lu was taken aback. It seemed that this was Zhao Feng's goal. I want to ask about the spiritual race's Zhao Yufei. Zhao Feng said bluntly. Attendant Lu was taken aback, and then he seemed to think of something and began to laugh. You didn't come to the spiritual race to be a worker disciple because of Zhao Yufei, did you? Attendant Lu asked with a smile. Among the women of the spiritual race, Zhao Yufei was undoubtedly number one in both beauty and talent. She was the goddess in the hearts of all the workers and periphery disciples, and she had countless suitors throughout the Xiling zone. At this time, Attendant Lu believed that Zhao Feng was one of Zhao Yufei's admirers, perhaps even one of them. Even so, Attendant Lu still somewhat admired Zhao Feng. He had not hesitated to become a worker disciple and start from scratch just so he could get close to Zhao Yufei. You can say that. Zhao Feng gave a noncommittal reply. Attendant Lu smiled, indicating that he understood. Who wouldn't fall in love with a beauty like Zhao Yufei? Moreover, it was young men like Zhao Feng who were the most impulsive and capable of doing anything. Attendant Lu then told Zhao Feng everything he knew about Zhao Yufei. As Zhao Feng listened attentively, he gained a better understanding of Zhao Yufei's situation in the spiritual race. The two chatted for a long time before Zhao Feng left. I didn't think that Zhao Yufei's status in the spiritual race would be so high. Zhao Feng chuckled. He had always underestimated Zhao Yufei's spiritual race bloodline and its rarity. The spiritual race had countless people, but true members of the spiritual race were extremely rare. 99% of the spiritual race's population were either recruited members of other races or subordinate factions. Just as Zhao Feng was preparing to return to his residence, his god spiritual light suddenly caught a trace of bloodline energy. The energy of the spiritual race bloodline. Startled, Zhao Feng flew in a certain direction based on his perception. Chapter 1243. After spending some time with Zhao Yufei, Zhao Feng remembered the aura of the spiritual race bloodline. The first thought that came to Zhao Feng's mind when he sensed this aura was, could this person be Zhao Yufei? If this were the continent zone, Zhao Feng would be certain that this person was Zhao Yufei, but this was the spiritual race, and there were quite a few people with the spiritual race bloodline. Relying on the aura of the bloodline, Zhao Feng quickly distanced himself from the region of the Ice River Valley. Gradually, a woman with a translucent body that glowed with the luster of white glass appeared in Zhao Feng's vision. This woman had a pure and beautiful appearance, and when combined with the characteristics of the spiritual race bloodline, she seemed even more noble and beautiful. But at this moment, this woman was pouting, her eyebrows furrowed. She seemed to be in a terrible mood. Several youths of various races clustered around this woman. Qingying, where do you want to go? I'll take you there. One of them, a bewitching youth with a gentle expression and a white jade fan in his hand, said with a smile. In the distance, Zhao Feng stared at this group of people. This woman clearly had the spiritual race bloodline, and the youths around her had extraordinary cultivation. They were probably the quasi-god geniuses of a subordinate faction of the spiritual race. If it were these people, they would definitely be able to get in touch with Zhao Yufei, especially that person with the spiritual race bloodline. However, his current status was too low, so these people might not pay any attention to him. But if these people were willing to help Zhao Feng deliver a message, then Zhao Feng might be able to directly meet Zhao Yufei. As Zhao Feng was thinking, the spiritual race woman looked at Zhao Feng and couldn't help but smile smugly. In her view, Zhao Feng was definitely attracted by her beauty, which was why he was staring at her in a daze. In addition, although Zhao Feng was dressed as a worker disciple, his appearance and demeanor were extremely outstanding, not losing to the youths around her. You, come here. Wei Qingying suddenly stopped and pointed at Zhao Feng. Zhao Feng was slightly taken aback. He was just thinking about whether or not he should approach these people and have them deliver a message to Zhao Yufei. But this woman with the spirit race bloodline had actually taken the initiative to approach him. Qingying, why are you looking for a servant? The demonic youth glanced coldly at Zhao Feng and said. Zhao Feng immediately flew over to Wei Qingying. Who do you think is the most beautiful in the entire spirit tribe? Wei Qingying's expression was coquettish as she asked softly with a trace of the gentleness of a young girl. The surrounding geniuses knew what Wei Qingying was going to do. Before Zhao Yufei came to the spiritual race, the number one beauty of the spiritual race was quasi-god Luoyu, and Wei Qingying was the person at quasi-god Luoyu's side. But ever since Zhao Yufei came to the spiritual race, her bloodline had been constantly stimulated, and her talent for cultivation was on full display. Coupled with her fairy-like appearance, she gradually replaced quasi-god Luoyu as the goddess in the hearts of the men of the spiritual race. However, Zhao Yufei was an outsider, so the members of the spiritual race in the ancient desolate realm of gods all felt a certain aversion toward her. Moreover, Zhao Yufei was extremely talented and beautiful, which made her the envy and jealousy of some of the female disciples of the spiritual race. Unfortunately, this morning, when Wei Qingying was talking about Zhao Yufei behind her back, she ran into Wei Qingying and was reprimanded. This, Zhao Feng was stunned for a few moments. He had never imagined that this spiritual race woman would seek him out to ask him this question. Speak. The bewitching man next to Wei Qingying coldly barked. Everyone knew that Wei Qingying was the person at quasi-god Luoyu's side. As long as this servant didn't say that the most beautiful was Zhao Yufei, anything else was fine. But in order to curry favor with Wei Qingying, it was best to say quasi-god Luoyu in this sort of situation. Of course it's you, miss. Zhao Feng said with a smile. Zhao Feng knew nothing about the spiritual race. Of all the women in the spiritual race, the only one he recognized was Zhao Yufei. However, Zhao Feng could tell that this spiritual race woman was in a fit of anger. Thus, if he said this, he should be able to please her. He. Wei Qingying chuckled softly as soon as she said this. She originally believed that this servant would say that quasi-god Luoyu was the most beautiful, but she was the one he said. Although she knew that Zhao Feng wasn't telling the truth, Wei Qingying was still very happy to hear it. The young geniuses on the side looked disdainfully at Zhao Feng. Even if the goddess in Zhao Feng's heart was Zhao Yufei, in order to not offend Wei Qingying, he only needed to say quasi-god Luoyu. But Zhao Feng actually said that Wei Qingying was the most beautiful. This made them feel that Zhao Feng was rather shameless. Your cultivation isn't bad, and your performance isn't bad. In a little while, I'll have them promote you to periphery disciple. Wei Qingying's mood improved, and she instantly found everything she saw pleasing to the eye. At this moment, as she examined Zhao Feng, she realized that Zhao Feng was even more handsome than the other youths present. There was also the aloofness between his brows, his naturally beautiful golden hair, all of this made her eyes light up. Wei Qingying's expression caused the youths present to turn cold as they stared at Zhao Feng. They were all geniuses from vassal factions of the spiritual race or factions under the jurisdiction of the spiritual race. They knew that they could not reach the level of geniuses of the spiritual race like Zhao Yufei or quasi-god Luoyu, so they set their sights on the less talented spiritual race women. After all, the spiritual race was ranked 19th among the ancient races. Combining with this bloodline would not only advance their cultivation, it would also benefit their descendants. Many thanks. Zhao Feng was somewhat delighted. Even if he performed well, it would have taken some time for him to become a periphery disciple. But now that Wei Qingying was happy, she immediately promised that she would promote Zhao Feng to periphery disciple. Qingying, where do you want to go? I'll accompany you. The young geniuses around Wei Qingying saw that she was in a good mood and immediately went up to curry favor with her. Okay. Wei Qingying was in a good mood and was prepared to go out for a stroll. Please wait. At this moment, Zhao Feng suddenly spoke. Wei Qingying was in a very good mood, and she had a very good impression of Zhao Feng. Perhaps if Zhao Feng asked her to deliver a letter, he would agree. For this reason, Zhao Feng called out to Wei Qingying. Servant, what are you saying? The bewitching man next to Wei Qingying rebuked in surprise. He had long since grown impatient with Zhao Feng. A measly worker disciple dared to speak to the person he was pursuing in such a manner. What's the matter? Wei Qingying truly had a good impression of Zhao Feng, so she did not mind Zhao Feng's lowly status. I'd like to ask you for a favor. Could you please deliver a letter to Zhao Yufei for me? Zhao Feng ignored the young geniuses and spoke. However, as soon as he finished speaking, Wei Qingying and the young geniuses next to her were stunned. The place fell into a dead silence. A moment later, a young man broke the silence with a cold laugh. Following this, the young geniuses burst out laughing and glanced at Zhao Feng with pitiful looks. Crap. Zhao Feng had a bad feeling. There was something wrong with the expressions of these people and Wei Qingying. You're trying to contact Zhao Yufei? Wei Qingying's smile vanished and was replaced by a creepy smile. Before Zhao Feng could speak, Wei Qingying continued, it seems like you're Zhao Yufei's pursuer. However, a mere worker disciple like you dares to approach Zhao Yufei. But don't worry, I'll tell Zhao Yufei that a worker disciple from the spirit tribe is trying to woo her. Wei Qingying's expression was cold, a sinister smile on her face. Whoosh! Wei Qingying returned. Huh, brat, you really don't know the difference between life and death. A young man said with a smile of schadenfreude. Although your cultivation isn't bad, you can forget about becoming a periphery disciple for the rest of your life, much less meeting Zhao Yufei. The bewitching youth with the feather fan threw down these words with a haughty expression before chasing after Wei Qingying. Zhao Feng knew that Wei Qingying probably didn't have a good relationship with Zhao Yufei in the spirit tribe. She probably wanted to use this matter to ridicule Zhao Yufei. However, if this could make Zhao Yufei notice Zhao Feng, that wouldn't be a bad thing. But what Zhao Feng didn't know was that in the Xiling zone, Zhao Yufei had far too many pursuers, so many that they couldn't be counted. Moreover, Zhao Yufei herself seemed to have someone else's heart and didn't care about these pursuers. After returning to Celestial River Valley, Zhao Feng passed down the mission he had just received from Attendant Lu. At present, Zhao Feng was the boss of the worker disciples of Celestial River Valley. If he received a mission, he would naturally have subordinates to help him complete it. Zhao Feng returned to his room and entered seclusion. What he didn't know was that on the next day, the news that he admired and pursued Zhao Yufei had spread throughout the spiritual race. Those true prodigies pursuing Zhao Yufei disdainfully laughed, treating it as a joke. But the periphery disciples of the spiritual race and the worker disciples of other regions had come out of admiration, wanting to take a look at this pursuer of Zhao Feng's. One day, While Zhao Feng was cultivating in the space-time robe, he sensed powerful spiritual senses and even divine senses sweeping over his residence. Swish! Zhao Feng left the space-time robe. Those with divine senses were basically all quasi-gods or true gods, so they naturally couldn't be worker disciples. Why are there so many people here? Zhao Feng was rather surprised. Worker disciples did not receive any protection from the spiritual race. Even if they were disturbed in the middle of their cultivation, no one would care. And there was no need to even mention the fact that there were quasi-gods who had come to disturb Zhao Feng. Zhao Feng walked out of his room. Zhao Feng came out. The moment Zhao Feng came out, someone cried out in alarm. Many of the nearby worker disciples immediately turned to Zhao Feng. At the same time, several arrogant youths appeared in the sky. These people all had extraordinary bloodlines and powerful cultivations. This is the person who had Wei Qingying help him get in touch with Zhao Yufei. A burly man with the back of a tiger and the waist of a bear was chatting with the person next to him. He's not bad looking, and his cultivation isn't bad. He's just a bit lacking in intelligence. A mere worker disciple dares to look at Zhao Yufei. A green-skinned youth next to him coldly jeered without the slightest trace of politeness. Next to Shi Weinan stood a long-faced youth dressed in the robe of an outer sect disciple. It's him. Shi Weinan whispered a few words into his ear. Humph, a toad lusting after swan meat. Today, I'll teach you a lesson. The long-faced youth strode toward Zhao Feng. Shi Weinan had once asked him to teach a lesson to a worker disciple, but coincidentally, the person Shi Weinan had asked him to teach a lesson was the worker disciple who had made quite a stir a few days ago, the one who wanted to pursue Zhao Yufei. The long-faced young man's interest was piqued. Chapter 1244. Shi Weinan gloomily glared at Zhao Feng. Not too long ago, Zhao Feng had caused him to lose all face in front of many worker disciples. At that time, Shi Weinan had begun to contact his periphery disciples and have them teach Zhao Feng a lesson. On one hand, he could redeem his own face, and on the other, he could intimidate all the worker disciples. The long-faced youth was a rank 1 quasi-god, a periphery disciple of the spiritual race. The nearby periphery disciples that had come out of admiration saw that the long-faced youth was about to attack, so they stopped talking and waited to watch the show. Today, I'll let you experience the power of a periphery disciple. The long-faced youth surged with divine power as he transformed into a streak of white light and flashed to Zhao Feng's side. Boom! The long-faced youth fiercely swung his fist, and a crystalline fist of divine power rumbled forward. Look! That's divine power. A periphery disciple is so strong. The surrounding worker disciples stared at the long-faced youth, unable to conceal the envy and awe in their eyes. Whoosh! Hiss! Just when the long-faced youth's fist was about to strike Zhao Feng's entire body flashed with lightning as he dodged to the side. That brat actually dodged it. The muscular man was taken aback. For that brat to dominate the worker disciples, he definitely has some strength. A green-skinned man said with a wicked smile. In his view, Zhao Feng was probably a quasi-god. Otherwise, no matter how skilled he was, he would not have been able to dodge the long-faced youth's attack. Failing his first attack, the long-faced youth immediately swung his fists at Zhao Feng. There was a massive boom as countless streaks of white light smashed into the crystalline ground, leaving several shallow holes in it. However, the long-faced youth never managed to land a blow on Zhao Feng. Brat, do you only know how to dodge? The long-faced youth angrily bellowed. As a periphery disciple, he had taken the initiative to provoke a worker disciple. If he failed to gain any advantage, what face would he have left to remain a periphery disciple? Then I'll fulfill your wish. Zhao Feng's eyes focused. Rumble. With a loud bang, Zhao Feng flashed directly behind the long-faced youth and punched out. The long-faced young man was caught off guard and was sent flying several feet away by Zhao Feng's punch, falling heavily to the ground. Silence reigned. No one had expected that Zhao Feng would defeat a periphery disciple right off the bat. You ambushed me. The long-faced young man blushed and suddenly shouted. Being defeated by an odd job disciple in one move was too shameful, so he could only say this. That's right, it was Zhao Feng who launched a sneak attack. Otherwise, how could he have defeated an outsider? Shi Weinan immediately agreed. Everyone could see that Zhao Feng was too fast. He flashed behind the long-faced youth and then defeated him. Gradually, everyone was convinced by this reason. Brother Chen, Brother Zhao, let's capture this shameless villain together. Seeing that the people around him believed his words, the long-faced young man asked the other disciples for help. Regardless of whether Zhao Feng had launched a sneak attack or not, the power of the punch just now was very strong. Therefore, the long-faced young man believed that he was no match for Zhao Feng. However, no matter what method he used, he had to defeat Zhao Feng today. All right. The green-skinned young man responded and directly rushed down. Humph, a mere odd job disciple dares to be so arrogant. The burly young man shouted and pressed down on Zhao Feng like a huge mountain. The two of them had long disliked Zhao Feng. Now that Zhao Feng had defeated the long-faced young man, who was also a periphery disciple like them, they were even more displeased. 3 periphery disciples attacked at the same time. "A odd job disciple," exclaimed. No matter how strong Zhao Feng was, he should have been defeated this time. There were some periphery disciples nearby who felt a little embarrassed when they saw this scene. They lowered their heads and prepared to leave. It was too embarrassing for 3 periphery disciples to attack an odd job disciple. In their view, Zhao Feng's defeat was assured, so there was no need to keep watching. However, before they could leave, they heard a few shrill screams. What surprised them was that this scream seemed to come from a familiar periphery disciple. Zhao Feng moved like a bolt of lightning, weaving back and forth in the encirclement of the 3. Bang! With one punch, the long-faced young man was sent flying again. With another punch, the burly young man fell to the ground. And then there was the final punch. The 3 periphery disciples were all slumped to the ground. At this moment, everyone was frozen to the spot, their eyes filled with shock. This included the 3 periphery disciples that Zhao Feng had defeated, all of them in disbelief. Of the 3, 2 were rank 1 quasi-gods and 1 was a rank 1 true god. To be able to so easily defeat the 3 of them, one had to be a top-class rank 2 quasi-god at the very least. But how could Zhao Feng possess such strength? While they were still in shock, Zhao Feng moved, walking toward the long-faced youth. No. The long-faced youth was just about to say something when he saw Zhao Feng's foot kick at him. He wanted to block, but he was powerless to do so. The mountainous weight of the kick sent him flying back several dozen feet before he came to a stop. Zhao Feng then walked up to the burly youth and gave him another kick, shattering many of his bones. Finally, Zhao Feng arrived in front of the green-skinned youth. You dare to injure me? Don't you know my cousin, ah? The green-skinned youth had a sinister expression as he threatened Zhao Feng, but Zhao Feng's foot continued to press down on him. After this kick, Zhao Feng kicked him again. Only when the hatred in the youth's eyes disappeared did Zhao Feng stop. Now you can scram. Zhao Feng coldly barked. The surrounding worker disciples immediately scattered, and the periphery disciples left. The surroundings of Zhao Feng's room finally quieted down. This won't do. As a worker disciple, there's no privacy to speak of. Zhao Feng's eyes were silent. While he was cultivating, the divine senses of these quasi-gods and true gods had recklessly swept through his room. If these people's divine senses were just a little stronger, they might have been able to discover the secret of Zhao Feng's spacetime robe. It's time to use a few tricks. Zhao Feng softly muttered. Zhao Feng then walked toward Attendant Lu's palace. At this moment, Attendant Lu was standing at the door, his expression dignified as he gazed at Zhao Feng. You shouldn't have injured periphery disciples, especially that Zhao Hongyi. Attendant Lu coldly rebuked. Although Zhao Feng's performance just now was astonishing, Zhao Feng had injured these periphery disciples, so they would definitely come back. The Zhao Hongyi that Attendant Lu spoke of was that green-skinned youth, his cousin, an outstanding inner disciple. The highest level of the spiritual race disciples was the core disciples. These people usually had the spiritual race bloodline or were extremely outstanding geniuses of their factions. Below them were the inner disciples. Although the inner disciples were not as strong as the core disciples, some of the inner disciples were even stronger than the core disciples. Deacon Lu originally wanted to promote Zhao Feng to a periphery disciple in a few months, but it looked like that was impossible now. I also had no choice. If I didn't beat them back, the three of them might have killed me. Zhao Feng revealed a helpless expression as his golden eye stared at Attendant Lu, a violet gold mist rising from it. A moment later, a hint of confusion appeared in Attendant Lu's eyes, and when he looked at Zhao Feng again, there was a hint of pity in his eyes. Attendant Lu, I want to become a periphery disciple. Only then will I have the power to protect myself and not cause you any trouble. As Zhao Feng stared at Attendant Lu, the mist in his left eye thickened. A profound soul energy began to seep into Attendant Lu's mind. Attendant Lu was just an attendant in charge of managing the worker disciples. He was only a rank 2 true god, so he was powerless against Zhao Feng's illusions. Of course, Zhao Feng was only confusing and guiding Attendant Lu. He did not completely control him in order to avoid being discovered. That's all I can do. Attendant Lu nodded his head. Many thanks, Attendant Lu. Zhao Feng smiled as he left the palace and returned to his hut. As expected, the news that Zhao Feng had defeated periphery disciples quickly spread through the spiritual race. Some periphery disciples almost charged over to kill Zhao Feng. But when they learned that Zhao Feng had easily defeated 3 periphery disciples, they fell silent. Perhaps only the top 3 periphery disciples could deal with Zhao Feng. Not long after, an even more astonishing piece of news began to spread among the periphery disciples. This month, Zhao Feng was promoted to periphery disciple. Many periphery disciples were discussing how to deal with Zhao Feng, because the spiritual race would not care about the life or death of a worker disciple. But now, Zhao Feng had become a periphery disciple. As this matter grew larger and larger, it finally attracted the attention of quite a few inner disciples. Among the inner disciples, more than 70% of the male disciples were Zhao Yufei's pursuers. A person who, in order to pursue Zhao Yufei, had not hesitated to become a worker disciple and then worked hard to become a periphery disciple. This naturally aroused their interest. One day, Zhao Feng moved to the periphery disciple residence. Periphery disciples had their own palace, and the heaven-earth yuan qi here was more than twice as dense as in the worker-disciple area. Only by becoming a periphery disciple could one truly be considered a member of the spiritual race and receive its protection. It's this person who defeated 3 periphery disciples. He should be a genius from another faction of the Xiling zone. In order to pursue Zhao Yufei, he was willing to become a worker disciple. With his strength, it's not strange for him to be promoted to periphery disciple. Some nearby periphery disciples commented on Zhao Feng. Zhao Feng ignored these people and walked towards his palace. At this time, cries of surprise came from in front of Zhao Feng. Big Brother Pan Hao. How come Big Brother Pan Hao has the time to come here? Many of the periphery disciples greeted a young man respectfully. Zhao Feng looked over. This person was dressed in the robes of an inner disciple. His nose was rather flat, his eyes and mouth were rather large, and his skin was glossy. He looked somewhat comical. This inner disciple called Pan Hao stared at Zhao Feng as he slowly walked over. You must be that Zhao Feng. Pan Hao put on an expression of great interest in Zhao Feng and directly asked. I've just become a periphery disciple, and an inner disciple is already looking for me. Zhao Feng was somewhat surprised. In the spiritual race, the status of an inner disciple was extremely high. Zhao Feng had just become a periphery disciple, so he did not want to cause too much of a ruckus. But if an inner disciple really wanted to attack him, Zhao Feng would not be polite. Huh, boy, you're really interesting. Bold and crazy enough. I, Pan Hao, am ashamed of my inferiority. Pan Hao suddenly laughed, praise in his eyes. Zhao Feng was startled. This situation was different from what he had imagined. The nearby periphery disciples also thought that Pan Hao had come to make trouble for Zhao Feng, but when they heard this, their jaws dropped. Pan Hao followed Zhao Feng to Zhao Feng's new residence. Although I admire your boldness and courage, you have no hope of pursuing Zhao Yufei. Pan Hao straightforwardly said, his tone serious and without any hint of mockery. You don't know, but almost all the outstanding inner disciples of the spiritual race pursue Zhao Yufei. Of course, they also don't have the chance. The only people who truly have a chance of obtaining Zhao Yufei are the core disciples. That's right, I heard that you crippled Zhao Hongyi, and his cousin is an outstanding inner disciple with a rank for true God cultivation. Chapter 1245. Zhao Hongyi was the green-skinned youth who had been defeated by Zhao Feng a few days ago. His cousin was a well-known figure amongst the inner disciples. He had long since broken into the true God realm and was already a rank for true God. Why are you telling me all this? Zhao Feng bluntly asked. Zhao Feng was extremely puzzled by the fact that Pan Hao, an inner disciple, had come to find him of his own accord and even said so many words of advice. As a quasi-god genius, you didn't hesitate to start as a worker disciple in order to pursue Zhao Yufei. I truly admire your actions. You should truly like Zhao Yufei. Pan Hao sternly said. Secondly, you've offended Zhao Hongyi's cousin, Zhao Lanyi. Among the inner disciples, Zhao Lanyi and I stand on opposite sides. I also came to see if you have any hope of joining our side. Pan Hao revealed his second reason. The struggle between inner disciples was extremely intense because it concerned their chances of becoming a core disciple. If Zhao Feng had the strength and potential to become an inner disciple, then Pan Hao needed to pull Zhao Feng over to his side. Zhao Feng nodded. It seemed that Pan Hao had not come to find him by chance. However, he couldn't be bothered to care about the struggle between the inner disciples of the spiritual race. Then what about you? Aren't you one of Zhao Yufei's pursuers? Zhao Feng curiously asked. I guess so. Pan Hao thought for a while before replying. Who didn't love a prodigy or a beautiful woman? However, Pan Hao knew that he couldn't obtain Zhao Yufei's favor, so he didn't want to get involved. However, his father urged him every day to pursue Zhao Yufei. He said that no one could say for sure what fate was, and that perhaps Zhao Yufei had taken a liking to his son. Pan Hao had no choice but to put on an act and become one of Zhao Yufei's pursuers. Pan Hao, you're an inner disciple. Can you help me pass a message to Zhao Yufei? Zhao Feng suddenly thought of something and said directly. I'm sorry, but I'm not that great among the inner disciples. It's impossible for Zhao Yufei to see me. Pan Hao chuckled. He was still thinking about how Zhao Feng still hadn't given up after he had said so much. Zhao Feng lowered his head. It seemed that he had underestimated Zhao Yufei's status among the astrals. With your current status, you might not even be able to see Zhao Yufei once in a few decades. However, Pan Hao smiled, keeping Zhao Feng in suspense. But what? Zhao Feng's heart skipped a beat. Pan Hao seemed to have an idea. However, recently, a portion of the core disciples of the spirit tribe have invited many core disciples and inner disciples to a gathering, Pan Hao replied with a smile. Zhao Feng knew that Zhao Yufei was definitely one of the core disciples. Brother Pan, bring me there. Zhao Feng's expression flickered as he immediately said. I think that it's best if you don't go. This gathering is actually going to be hosted by quasi-god Luo Yu and Zhao Yufei. These are two great beauties of the spiritual race, and almost all of their suitors will be there. Pan Hao advised. Zhao Feng's reputation had already spread to the inner disciples. If Zhao Feng really came, he would definitely be targeted. Zhao Feng said nothing, but his eyes were fixed on Pan Hao. You really want to go? Zhao Feng did not have the right to participate in this gathering. Even if Pan Hao didn't tell Zhao Feng would definitely find out about such a major event. Moreover, Zhao Feng was a madman who was probably capable of anything. I can take you there, but you absolutely can't do anything when the time comes. Pan Hao warned Zhao Feng. As long as he brought Zhao Feng to broaden his horizons, there would be no problem if Zhao Feng didn't cause any trouble. Pan Hao and Zhao Feng chatted for a while about the contents of the gathering. Around midnight, Pan Hao left Zhao Feng's residence. Right, you can relax. Zhao Lanyi is currently in seclusion and won't make trouble for you in the near future. Use this time to make good use of the periphery disciples' cultivation resources and increase your strength. Pan Hao reminded him before he left. He could see that Zhao Feng had hidden himself very deeply and was probably not weak, so he could join their side. However, Zhao Lanyi was a rank 4 true god. Zhao Feng was definitely no match for him, so Pan Hao gave him a warning. After Pan Hao left, Zhao Feng began to seclude himself. After becoming a periphery disciple, no one could recklessly disturb Zhao Feng while he was in seclusion, much less use their divine senses to probe him. 1 month later, Zhao Feng left the palace. Periphery disciples did not need to do any cleaning, but they had to take on a small mission each month. Depending on the difficulty of the mission, they would receive a corresponding reward and contribution points. The mission hall would have many new missions every day, ranging in difficulty from demigod to rank 7 ancient god. All the disciples of the race could choose from these missions. The missions here could not only be used for training, but also for rewards and contribution points. At this moment, a powerful ripple of divine power came from the distance. All the disciples around the mission hall couldn't help but look over. That's... Zhao Feng's eyes were focused on a group of 3 riding an extremely fast-flying Yao God toward the mission hall. The spiritual race had a rule that normal disciples could not ride flying mounts in the spiritual race. That's, a core disciple of the spiritual race. Someone called out in alarm. 2 of the 3 people on the flying mount had the spiritual race bloodline. How flashy. A female disciple's eyes rippled as she gazed at the youth at the very front of the flying mount. This youth had an appearance that even women would be jealous of, and his spiritual race body made him seem even more handsome and noble. But at this moment, this youth's eyes were focused on Zhao Feng. It's him. The youth who was the center of attention spoke at the same time as Zhao Feng. Yuan Long, you recognize this periphery disciple? A girl with a pure face next to Yuan Long asked in surprise. Heh, I didn't think that you would come here. Yuan Long couldn't help but smile. When he followed his master to the continent zone and took away Zhao Yufei, he truly did look down on Zhao Feng. But now, Zhao Feng was able to rely on his own abilities to come to the spiritual race and become a periphery disciple. This was proof that Zhao Feng wasn't that stupid. Everyone around the mission hall was stunned. The majority of them recognized Zhao Feng. He was the quasi-god who had started out as a worker disciple in order to pursue Zhao Yufei. But they had never imagined that Zhao Feng would know Yuan Long, a core disciple of the spiritual race and a true genius of the race. However, the current Yu is even less worthy of junior sister Yufei. Yuan Long calmly said. He ignored Zhao Feng and walked straight into the mission hall. The surrounding crowd was in an uproar. It seemed that this Zhao Feng had been pursuing Zhao Yufei for a long time. This kid has probably been pursuing Zhao Yufei for a very long time. He's just a toad lusting after swan meat. The nearby disciples couldn't help but discuss. After a long time, Yuan Long and the other two people collected their rewards and walked out of the hall. Yuan Long gave Zhao Feng an extremely indifferent glance before leaving. The pure spiritual race girl looked at Zhao Feng with a smirk as she walked to his side. There's only a few more days until the conference. You must be there. The spiritual race girl said as she walked closer. Zhao Feng smelled the fragrance of a woman, and an item appeared in his hand. The spiritual race girl sent him an invitation as she quietly placed it in his hand. Zhao Feng gripped the invitation in shock as he watched the spiritual race girl leave. Chapter 1246. Once the three core disciples left, the mission hall once more began to buzz with activity. Why was Kong Dai so close to Zhao Feng just now? Kong Dai has a good relationship with Zhao Yufei. She's definitely warning Zhao Feng not to bother Zhao Yufei anymore. Many people began to point at Zhao Feng. No one present noticed that when Kong Dai approached Zhao Feng, an invitation had appeared in Zhao Feng's hand, and Zhao Feng had immediately put the invitation away in his interspatial dimension. This person is helping me? Zhao Feng was rather surprised. From the discussions of the surrounding disciples, Zhao Feng knew that this spiritual race girl called Kong Dai was on extremely good terms with Zhao Yufei. But if she wanted to help Zhao Feng, why didn't she just tell Zhao Yufei about it, instead of giving Zhao Feng an invitation? In addition, through his interaction with Yuan Long, Zhao Feng finally understood Yuan Long's strength. Rank 5 True God. Zhao Feng's heart chilled. Yuan Long wasn't very old, around the same age as Zhao Feng. Zhao Feng didn't need to fear a rank 5 True God at his current level of strength, but Yuan Long had the spiritual race bloodline and could probably contend against a rank 6 True God. If I try to break through to the heavenly divine realm now, I have a 50% chance of becoming a rank 5 True God. Zhao Feng was not discouraged. Once he succeeded in breaking through to the heavenly divine realm, he wouldn't need to fear Yuan Long. In addition, Zhao Feng's sacred lightning body and 5-elemental wind lightning technique had yet to be perfected. Thus, Zhao Feng needed to wait until these two techniques were perfected before breaking through to the heavenly divine realm. At that time, he would have an even higher chance of becoming a rank 5 True God. He walked into the mission hall and picked the simplest mission. After spending 3 days, he finished it. Afterward, Zhao Feng remained in seclusion in his residence. One day, Pan Hao came once more. Let's go. I'll bring you to experience the exchange between the inner clan and core disciples. Soon, Zhao Feng arrived at the living area of the inner disciples. The heaven-earth yuan qi here was even denser than outside. At this time, there were very few people in the inner sect disciple area. Most of them had already rushed over to the exchange. Not long after, Zhao Feng finally arrived at the core disciple area. Core disciples were the ones that the spirit race focused on nurturing. Any core disciple would be protected and nurtured by the spirit race. Among the core disciples, there were some whose strength was inferior to the periphery disciples, but their talent and potential were absolutely top-notch. As long as they accumulated enough time, they would transform into experts. Before long, a clear lake appeared in front of them. There were many small bridges, walkways, and pavilions on the lake. The figures of many young elites were gathered in groups of 3 to 5, and they seemed to be discussing something. Quasi-God Luo Yu and Zhao Yufei are the stars of this conference. They won't be here so soon. Pan Hao saw that Zhao Feng was looking around and immediately smiled. I brought you here so that you can see Zhao Yufei and see your powerful competitors so that you can give up on this idea. Remember, don't act recklessly. Before entering the exchange meeting, Pan Hao reminded them again. Zhao Feng's brow creased. He naturally wouldn't offend the people here, but there were some things that could not be avoided. Then, the two of them stepped onto the bridge above the lake. Although Zhao Feng's reputation had spread far and wide, very few of the inner disciples knew what Zhao Feng looked like. The core disciples almost never bothered with the minor matters of their subordinates. Look over there. That's a spiritual race core disciple called Zhang Yutong. He's a rank 6 true god, and his ancestor had a significant status in the spiritual race. He's one of the strongest competitors for Zhao Yufei. Pan Hao messaged Zhao Feng as they walked onto the bridge. His goal was naturally to strike a blow at Zhao Feng and have him back off. They're all very strong. Zhao Feng nodded. Every person participating in this conference was a 1 in 10,000 genius. They either possessed formidable strength and methods or had supreme talent. For example, Zhang Yutong. This was the first time Zhao Feng had seen such a young genius who had reached rank 6 true god. Pan Hao nodded, believing that Zhao Feng had been intimidated by all these geniuses and knew that he had no chance. Pan Hao introduced many inner disciples to Zhao Feng. Almost all of these inner disciples were on Pan Hao's side. When they learned of Zhao Feng's identity, they somewhat blamed Pan Hao. I just brought him to see Zhao Yufei and put an end to his thoughts. Pan Hao whispered. The inner disciples didn't say anything else. They sighed and went to try to befriend a core disciple. Isn't this Brother Pan? At this moment, a pointy-faced youth appeared behind Pan Hao. Pan Hao immediately knew who this person was. He impatiently gave a casual greeting. This person is called Cui Lin. He's Zhao Lanyi's man. Pan Hao secretly messaged Zhao Feng. Brother Pan, this seems to be the first time this Cui has seen the person next to you. Why don't you introduce him to me? Cui Lin's cold and sinister gaze instantly fell on Zhao Feng. The inner disciples were generally divided into two factions, and Cui Lin and Pan Hao were on opposing sides. But Cui Lin didn't remember a golden-haired brat appearing on Pan Hao's side. Was he a newly promoted inner disciple? How could insignificant people like us be worthy of Brother Cui's acquaintance? Pan Hao straightforwardly refused and brought Zhao Feng to the edge of the conference. You'd better keep a low profile for me. You can't let them recognize your identity as a periphery disciple, or else they'll definitely give our faction a vicious beating and humiliate you. Pan Hao whispered. The two of them sat on the edge of the conference where there were fewer people. Pan Hao wasn't really pursuing Zhao Yufei or quasi-god Luoyu, so he didn't care about this conference. At this moment, the chatting youths in the conference instantly fell silent and looked into the distance. Look, quasi-god Luoyu is here. Pan Hao shrugged Zhao Feng's shoulder. Two spiritual race women were walking over from nearby. But everyone's eyes were focused on the white-clothed woman on the right. She was like a fairy made of ice, her face like a lotus flower emerging from the water. Her clear and moving eyes were like exquisite crystals, and her curvaceous body was faintly discernible. As she walked, she was able to tug at the hearts of many youths. She's quasi-god Luoyu. Zhao Feng also looked appreciatively at this fairy-like beauty. Quasi-god Luoyu was only a rank 3 quasi-god, but she had the spiritual race bloodline and was even stronger. But Zhao Feng's gaze was quickly attracted by the woman next to quasi-god Luoyu. This woman had a smug smile on her face. It was none other than the first spiritual race female disciple that Zhao Feng had seen when he first arrived at the spiritual race, Wei Qingying. Fairy Luoyu, how have you been recently? Quasi-god Luoyu, did you like the 9-colored heaven-yang flower that this Shin gave you last time? More than half of the youths in the building immediately rushed forward and began to speak. Luoyu is very happy to welcome all of you to this conference. Quasi-god Luoyu nodded and smiled at the young elites. Surrounded by many geniuses, quasi-god Luoyu entered the conference grounds. Next to quasi-god Luoyu, Wei Qingying suddenly noticed a golden-haired figure. After a moment of surprise, her lips curled into a smile. Wei Qingying whispered a few words into quasi-god Luo Yu's ear, and then quasi-god Luo Yu's gaze instantly focused on Zhao Feng with faint disdain. Almost all the youths present were focused on quasi-god Luo Yu. Now that quasi-god Luo Yu had suddenly looked in a certain direction, it naturally attracted their attention. What's going on? Has quasi-god Luo Yu taken a fancy to me? Next to Zhao Feng, Pan Hao was stunned, and his heart began to thump. He was not one of quasi-god Luo Yu's pursuers because he knew that he had no hope, but if quasi-god Luo Yu took a fancy to him, Pan Hao would naturally be ecstatic. Isn't that the Zhao Feng who started out as a worker disciple in order to pursue big sister Yufei? Wei Qingying gave a crafty smile, her eyes brimming with disdain. Wei Qingying's words instantly alarmed the crowd. I seem to have heard of this matter before. So it's that brat. A core disciple coldly snorted as he shot a glance at Zhao Feng. Zhao Feng. Cui Lin was dumbfounded. Only core disciples and inner disciples had probably been invited to this conference. He remembered that Zhao Feng had only been promoted to periphery disciple not too long ago. How could he have become an inner disciple so quickly? Before he could think further, a golden-clothed youth not far from Zhao Feng sneered, a toad lusting after the flesh of a swan. A lowly servant wants to pursue Zhao Yufei. It's over. Pan Hao mentally cursed. Zhao Feng's brow creased as he looked at the golden-clothed youth. He had the bloodline of the spiritual race and was only a rank 3 true god, but he had an extremely arrogant expression. The disdain in his eyes was more obvious than anyone else's. Endure it. He's Jin Wei, Zhao Yufei's fiery pursuer. Although he's young and his cultivation is low, his ancestor has enormous authority in the spiritual race. Jin Wei's ancestor did his utmost to encourage him to pursue Zhao Yufei so that he could consolidate his bloodline's position in the spiritual race. Pan Hao messaged Zhao Feng, explaining this person's background and status. Servant, do you have the guts to have a match with me? If you lose, get the hell out of here. Jin Wei saw that Zhao Feng was silent and instantly became even more condescending. Half of the conference was to exchange pointers while the other half was to exchange pointers. But before everyone had arrived, Jin Wei had already challenged Zhao Feng to a fight. The surrounding inner and core disciples all coldly smiled at Zhao Feng. Jin Wei was famous for his arrogance, his harsh words, and his ability to humiliate others was top-notch. Moreover, Jin Wei's bloodline had an extremely high status in the spiritual race. Even some of the core disciples didn't want to provoke him. Zhao Feng coldly stared at Jin Wei. If he didn't leave, this person would definitely continue to humiliate him. Okay, I also want to experience the strength of a core disciple. Just when everyone believed that Zhao Feng would angrily leave, he stood up and accepted the challenge. On the side, Pan Hao slapped his forehead. Bringing Zhao Feng here had been a grave mistake. Fairy Luo Yu, if you don't mind, let me take care of this servant before the conference begins. Jin Wei looked at Fairy Luo Yu and grinned. Luo Yu has come this time to experience the strength of all the geniuses present. Fairy Luo Yu said with a smile, giving her tacit approval. Chapter 1247. Yufei, hurry up. The conference is about to begin. Kong Dai hurriedly called out. Nearby, a purple-robed woman of peerless beauty stood. Her snow-white skin glowed with a faint jade-like luster, making her seem like a noble fairy of ice and crystal. However, this peerlessly beautiful goddess had a gloomy and sorrowful expression on her face, as if she had no interest in anything. The conference has nothing to do with me. Zhao Yufei acted like it didn't matter. Hey, this is a conference that the upper echelon of the spiritual race is holding just for you and quasi-god Luo Yu. There are so many people waiting for you. Kong Dai flew over and grabbed Zhao Yufei's arm, pulling her into the air. I said before that I would give you a pleasant surprise at this conference. How could you not go? Kong Dai added. It's not like I don't know him. What pleasant surprise could there be? Zhao Yufei was rather confused. You'll know when you get there. Kong Dai gave a mysterious smile. The spiritual race core disciples and Zhao Feng stood in the center of the crystalline clearing in the center of the lake. Wei Qingying had a playful smile on her face as she activated the array so that the shockwaves of their battle would not spread elsewhere. All the disciples present had gathered around the fighting stage. This kid's bloodline isn't very strong. He can't put up any resistance against Jin Wei's spiritual race bloodline. Some of the core disciples weren't very interested in this battle. Firstly, the two combatants weren't very strong. Secondly, there was no suspense to this battle. Jin Wei wasn't very strong among the core disciples, but his spiritual race bloodline meant that the weaker one's bloodline was, the greater the suppression one would suffer. Moreover, Jin Wei was a core disciple of the spiritual race, so his cultivation techniques and combat skills were all top class. I should have just left. Even if I lost to Jin Wei, I still have to leave. Pan Hao muttered on the side. On the other side, quasi-god Luo Yu stared at Zhao Feng, a faint smile on her lips. Zhao Feng's appearance and demeanor weren't bad, and he possessed both courage and insight. Alas, he was Zhao Yufei's pursuer, or else quasi-god Luo Yu might have considered stopping this battle. I'll show you the true bloodline of the spirit race. Jin Wei waved his golden sleeves with an arrogant and conceited look on his face. Wait. Zhao Feng suddenly spoke. What? Do you regret it now? Jin Wei sneered, his eyes filled with disdain. The surrounding crowd was also stunned. They were already on the fighting platform. Could it be that Zhao Feng was going to go back on his words? If I lose, I'll have to leave the exchange meeting. If you lose, you'll have to leave the exchange meeting as well. Zhao Feng smiled casually. His words immediately attracted the disdain of the surrounding crowd. This kid is too arrogant. He really thinks so highly of himself. Many inner disciples immediately said in order to flatter Jin Wei. I promise you, but I will not lose to you. Jin Wei laughed and said affirmatively. Then let's begin. Seeing that Jin Wei had agreed, the smile on Zhao Feng's face immediately disappeared, and a bone-chilling killing intent spread out. At that moment, Jin Wei, who looked into Zhao Feng's eyes, could not help but tremble, and a trace of fear rose from the bottom of his heart. How is that possible? Why would I be afraid? Jin Wei was a little surprised. Then, Jin Wei directly activated his spirit race bloodline. In an instant, Jin Wei's body became as clear as crystal, and a layer of brilliant white light was released. A vast bloodline power rushed toward Zhao Feng. Zhao Feng's eyebrows moved slightly. Although Jin Wei's strength was lacking, he was very good at using his bloodline. No wonder he was a core disciple of the spirit race. Zhao Feng's ancient blood devil sun bloodline had only reached within the archaic 1000 after continuous refinement. If he used the ancient blood devil sun bloodline now, it would be almost useless. It would be completely suppressed by Jin Wei's spirit race bloodline. However, Zhao Feng did not need to use his bloodline at all. This must be the first time that kid has seen the true spirit race bloodline. His bloodline can't even be used in front of Jin Wei. Many people saw Zhao Feng freeze in place and did not use his bloodline, so they mocked him. Spirit Gathering Fist. Jin Wei activated his spirit race bloodline and used all the heaven-earth yuan qi inside the formation for his own use. Swoosh swoosh. Countless white crystal fragments danced around his body. As Jin Wei danced, these crystal fragments formed a giant crystal fist that crushed toward Zhao Feng. The giant crystal fist was about to hit Zhao Feng, but he was still standing in place, motionless. You can't even use your bloodline. It's not bad that you can block this move of mine. After Jin Wei threw out a punch, he laughed in a self-righteous manner. Is that so? Zhao Feng suddenly spat out 2 words. Wine. A layer of 5-colored lightning suddenly appeared on the surface of his body. The dazzling lightning quickly condensed into lightning marks that attached to the surface of his body. At the same time, a force of lightning that could suppress everything swept out in all directions. The air instantly sank, and the crystal fist that was flying toward Jin Wei came to a stop. Boom! The gravity lightning increased once again, shattering the gigantic crystalline fist and causing the entire battle stage to tremble. Not far away, Jin Wei was caught off guard and was suppressed by a tremendous force. At the same time, the force of lightning paralyzed his entire body. How is this possible? Jin Wei's attack was shattered. How did he do it? The crowd exclaimed in surprise. They had thought that Zhao Feng would suffer a crushing defeat or struggle for a while, but they had never thought that this would happen. Thump! Zhao Feng took a step forward, and a force of lightning swept out with him as the center. In front of him, Jin Wei's heart violently thumped as he once again felt a ferocious impact. Thump! Zhao Feng took a second step. Jin Wei's face was pale. Third step. Jin Wei spat out a mouthful of blood. Fourth step. Jin Wei sat paralyzed on the ground, his body trembling. Gasp! The surroundings of the fighting ring were deathly silent. From the beginning of the battle, Zhao Feng had not made a move. He had only taken a few steps, and Jin Wei had been seriously injured. How was this possible? Many of the core disciples present could not believe that Zhao Feng possessed such power. This is his true strength. Pan Hao's mouth was so wide that an apple could be stuffed inside. With the isolation of the array formation, they could not sense how strong Zhao Feng was. But to be able to defeat Jin Wei without a fight, his strength was extraordinary. This kid, Zhang Yutong's eyes focused, and he finally looked at Zhao Feng. Fairy Luoyu stared blankly at Zhao Feng in the middle of the fighting ring. His bearing was extraordinary, and he was handsome and cool, like a peerless god of lightning. Zhao Yufei. At this moment, a cry of alarm came from the crowd. Zhao Yufei is here. Immediately, everyone's eyes looked into the distance. They saw a beautiful and otherworldly woman dressed in violet standing in the distance like the most beautiful scenery in the world. Even quasi-god Luo Yu was stunned, and then a hint of jealousy appeared on her face. Yu Fei. Jin Wei's expression froze, and then he roared, "No, I can't lose." He could not show such a wretched appearance in front of his goddess. He had to defeat Zhao Feng. Swish! A crystal longsword appeared in his hand. There was a mysterious blue crystal line on it. The moment this sword appeared, even the crowd outside the array sensed a sharp sword intent and felt a portion of their divine power drain away. Jin Wei's action drew everyone's attention away from Zhao Yufei. High-quality divine artifact, celestial crystal sword. A core disciple cried out in alarm. High-quality divine artifacts were divine artifacts used by ancient gods. I didn't think that Jin Wei's ancestor would give him a celestial crystal sword to protect himself. Zhang Yutong was shocked. Unless Zhao Feng also took out a high-quality divine artifact, there was no way he could block the sharpness of a high-quality divine artifact. Divine artifacts are not allowed in the conference. Pan Hao called out in alarm. The primary purpose of this conference was for the geniuses of the spiritual race to interact and exchange pointers. It was not a battle to the death, so divine artifacts were not allowed. However, no one present tried to stop him. After all, they all hoped that Zhao Feng would disappear from this place. But, an inconceivable scene occurred. Jin Wei, stop! The purple-clothed woman, who was standing in the distance, suddenly let out a tender shout and directly rushed towards the battle platform. Kong Dai also flew to the side of the stage and removed the array. Yu Fei, what? Jin Wei was dumbfounded. Zhao Yufei had never yelled at him like this before. Just what was going on? At this time, Zhao Yufei came to the stage and her misty eyes stared at Zhao Feng, unable to move away. Yufei. Zhang Yutong's expression changed slightly. All this while, Zhao Yufei had never been interested in anything. This was the first time he had seen such a strong emotional fluctuation from the woman he loved. Brother Feng, you're finally here. Zhao Yufei's eyes were misty, and there was nothing else in her heart. After more than 30 years, Zhao Feng had finally come to find her, and she had waited for more than 30 years. Although 30 years was very short for gods, she felt as if she had waited for 3,000 years, 30,000 years. Fortunately, he was finally here. There was no need to wait any longer. I'm late. Zhao Feng's voice was somewhat unnatural. At this moment, his heart was moved, and the corners of his eyes were moist. Looking at Zhao Yufei, he felt an inexplicable pain in his heart. He wanted to hold the woman before him in his arms and not let any harm come to her. Yufei. The crowd could not help but exclaim. They could feel that Zhao Feng and Zhao Yufei seemed to be very close. However, at this moment, Zhao Yufei held Zhao Feng's hand and walked to the side. Let's talk over there. Zhao Yufei wore a bright smile. How is this possible? The surrounding crowd stood rooted to the ground. Their hearts felt as if they had been punched by a hammer, receiving a huge blow. Yufei, Jin Wei's mind went blank, and the superior-grade godly weapon in his hand fell to the ground with a clang. No one had expected that the goddess in their hearts would hold the hands of a nameless ancestor. Furthermore, this nameless junior was once a servant disciple, and had been mocked by them many times. Cui Lin took out a badge and received a message while still in a daze. He immediately went to Zhang Yutong's side and whispered a few words. Zhang Yutong was startled. His eyes flickered with a sharp flicker. Wait, Zhao Feng, aren't you just a periphery disciple? How dare you trespass on the gathering between the inner tribe and the core disciples? Zhang Yutong snapped. He's just a periphery disciple. Some of the core disciples asked in astonishment. Everyone assumed that the participants were at least inner disciples, and it was impossible for a periphery disciple to sneak in. However, Zhao Feng had come as a periphery disciple. A periphery disciple dares to sneak into the gathering. At this moment, Jin Wei also stood up and shouted with a ruthless expression. Chapter 1248. With Zhang Yutong and Jin Wei leading the way, the surrounding disciples began to echo their sentiments. Although they were unwilling to offend Zhao Yufei, they couldn't help but feel a little indignant at the sight of their goddess holding the hand of an unfamiliar man. Moreover, Zhao Feng was only a periphery disciple. There was a vast difference in status between them and him. So he's just a periphery disciple. He truly doesn't understand the rules. Wei Qingying's sharp voice came from quasi-god Luo Yu's side. At the start, she had also found it rather strange that Zhao Feng had been promoted to inner disciple in such a short amount of time. As it turned out, he was just a periphery disciple. Get out of here. Jin Wei angrily glared at Zhao Feng and bellowed. He had lost the battle just now. Only by humiliating Zhao Feng a little would he be able to vent his anger. It's over. Nearby, Pan Hao recovered from his shock and sighed with his head lowered. He was the one who had brought Zhao Feng here. If this matter was exposed, he would not be able to escape responsibility. Moreover, Zhao Feng had offended the majority of the inner and core disciples present. Once they learned of this, they would definitely vent their anger on him, and all the inner disciples on his side would suffer a calamity. I was the one who had him come. Zhao Yufei suddenly said, and then she turned to Zhao Feng, her eyes brimming with tenderness. These words caused the crowd that had been threatening Zhao Feng to freeze in place. Yufei, you. Jin Wei was speechless. Zhao Yufei had no idea that Zhao Feng was here, so how could she have had Zhao Feng come? It was clear that Zhao Yufei was siding with Zhao Feng. Yufei, if you insist on standing up for him, there's nothing we can do. But isn't the person you value a little too spineless? Does she only know how to hide behind you and have you shield her from the wind and rain? At this moment, Zhang Yutong coldly mocked Zhao Feng. Given Zhao Yufei's status as a core disciple of the spirit race and the support of many elders, there was nothing they could do if Zhao Yufei insisted on siding with Zhao Feng. Therefore, Zhang Yutong started with Zhao Feng. A guy who lives off a woman. If you have the guts, come out and bear all of this. The surrounding disciples felt that Zhao Feng's actions were shameless. Brother Feng, ignore them. Zhao Yufei's jade-like hands clenched even tighter. Zhao Feng was only a periphery disciple of the spirit race and had no backing. If he were to take responsibility for this, he would definitely be severely punished. At that time, these inner and core disciples could easily kill Zhao Feng. However, at this moment, Zhao Feng took the initiative to step forward and looked at Zhang Yutong calmly. Apart from Kong Dai, who was snickering to the side, everyone else was shocked by Zhao Feng's actions. He actually took the initiative to step forward. There's no clear rule that outer disciples can't participate in this conference, right? Zhao Feng said calmly. The crowd nodded. There was indeed no clear rule. However, the invitation was only given to the core disciples and some inner disciples. That's right, but the invitation was not given to the outer disciples. Zhang Yutong did not know what Zhao Feng was planning, but he still said calmly. However, before he could finish his sentence, he stopped. He even wanted to swallow the words that he had just said. At this moment, everyone's eyes were focused on the invitation in Zhao Feng's hand. This kid actually has an invitation. Pan Hao's eyes widened. He felt that he had been worrying for nothing. How is this possible? He's a periphery disciple, how could he have an invitation? Damn it, who gave it to him? Many people cursed in their hearts. Those who had the qualifications to send out invitations were basically the core disciples with the most authority in this exchange meeting. How could Zhao Feng have known a core disciple before this? But no matter what, Zhao Feng had still taken out an invitation. He had the right to participate in this conference. Little Dai. Zhao Yufei excitedly glanced at Kong Dai, but she saw that Kong Dai had an expression that said, "You owe me a favor." Kong Dai's gaze fell once more on Zhao Feng, and her expression turned grim. In truth, she also did not believe that Zhao Feng was a good match for Zhao Yufei. This was because there were far too many people who were more outstanding than Zhao Feng among Zhao Yufei's pursuers. For example, Zhang Yutong, a rank 6 true god, had killed Zhao Feng without the slightest effort. Besides that, there were also many core experts who were in seclusion and could not participate in the conference, as well as the core disciples of other factions of the Xiling Zone. If she hadn't heard Zhao Yufei mention Zhao Feng so often and saw Zhao Yufei's worried and absent-minded appearance, Kong Dai would never have helped Zhao Feng by giving him an invitation. Gradually, the crowd began to retreat. Shouldn't you also leave this place? Zhao Feng coldly said as he stared straight at Jin Wei. Jin Wei's expression froze. Only now did he remember that he had made a bet with Zhao Feng. Whoever lost would leave the conference. He had never imagined that he would lose, so he hadn't cared about this matter. Jin Wei viciously glared at Zhao Feng as if he wanted to eat him alive. In the end, he angrily snorted and left. Although he had lost to Zhao Feng in the previous battle, he had far too many ways to get rid of Zhao Feng in the spiritual race. Just as Jin Wei was about to leave, a green-skinned man walked over. Big brother Jin Wei, where are you going? Zhao Lanyi asked in confusion. He had come late because he was in seclusion, but the conference probably hadn't ended yet. Jin Wei was in a terrible mood, so he had no time to pay attention to Zhao Lanyi. Thus, he didn't even glance at him and left. Zhao Lanyi awkwardly walked into the conference. Zhao Feng. Zhao Feng's figure was the first to enter Zhao Lanyi's eyes. Before he had come to the conference, his cousin, Zhao Hongyi, had told him everything and told him to teach Zhao Feng a harsh lesson. At this time, Zhao Feng was still on the stage, and Zhao Yufei was not far behind Zhao Feng. This was the perfect opportunity for him to force a fight and show off his strength. Thump! Zhao Lanyi's figure leaped and directly stepped onto the fighting ring. Zhao Feng, you bullied my cousin. As his older cousin, I have to get back some justice for him. Zhao Lanyi looked at Zhao Feng, the corners of his lips curling up. He was an outstanding inner disciple, a rank 4 true god, even stronger than some core disciples. However, the surrounding crowd was silent, their expressions rather strange. Zhao Lanyi was an inner disciple, and yet he dared to provoke someone that Zhao Yufei valued. In their view, this was no different from seeking death. In addition, Zhao Feng's strength was not simple. But everyone present disliked Zhao Feng, and some of the core disciples were already thinking about how to deal with Zhao Feng. Thus, they all hoped that Zhao Lanyi and Zhao Feng would fight here and test out Zhao Feng's true strength. However, the inner disciples that stood on Zhao Lanyi's side would naturally tell him this news. Zhao Lanyi, that kid is very strong, and he's related to Zhao Yufei. One of them transmitted his voice without batting an eyelid. What? Zhao Lanyi's fighting spirit was instantly extinguished. At this moment, he realized that Zhao Yufei was looking at him with a gaze filled with coldness. Zhao Lanyi was somewhat regretful. He should have come earlier, so he didn't know that Zhao Feng was related to Zhao Yufei. Even if he really could defeat Zhao Feng, he would still be offending Zhao Yufei. However, he was already riding a tiger, and it was hard to get off. He was the one who had challenged Zhao Feng just now, and Zhao Feng had yet to respond. Zhao Lanyi could only silently pray that Zhao Feng would refuse. Brother Feng just fought once, so let me take his place. At this time, Zhao Yufei, who was behind them, suddenly stepped forward with a cold expression. No, Sister Yufei, this might not be appropriate. Zhao Lanyi hurriedly said in surprise. Zhao Yufei was a core disciple, and her bloodline density and cultivation talent were both extraordinary. He would never dare to offend her. In addition, Zhao Yufei was a girl he had always admired, so Zhao Lanyi couldn't bring himself to attack her. There's nothing inappropriate about it. Zhao Yufei's eyes flashed with cold light. Bzzz. In a flash, Zhao Yufei's skin became as translucent as crystal, and it exuded a dazzling violet light. The vast power of her bloodline caused the heaven-earth Yuan Qi to tremble. With a wave of her hand, a violet screen of light shot forward. Under the pressure of the spiritual race bloodline, Zhao Lanyi was restricted in every aspect. He couldn't dodge, so he could only defend. Bang! A layer of violet crystal exploded, and Zhao Lanyi's stiff body flew backward. Many parts of his body had crystallized, and even the blood trickling from the corner of his mouth had turned into red crystals. Zhao Yufei's usage of her bloodline has gotten even stronger. The rank 4 true god Zhao Lanyi was actually defeated by Zhao Yufei in a single exchange. The surrounding disciples were all stunned. The jealousy in quasi-god Luo Yu's eyes intensified. She was no longer a match for a single blow from Zhao Yufei. Turning her head, Zhao Yufei's cold and harsh expression instantly melted. Her soft and tender eyes gazed at Zhao Feng, and she once more took Zhao Feng's hand and left the conference. Yufei, your bloodline seems to be thicker than any other member of the spiritual race. Zhao Feng said in surprise. He hadn't expected that Zhao Yufei, who had come from the continent zone to the spiritual race, would still be so dazzling. Haha, how could I compare to you? It was rare for Zhao Yufei to reveal the bashfulness of a little girl. No matter when, Zhao Feng would always be an insurmountable mountain in her heart. Even now, Zhao Yufei was confident that Zhao Feng's strength far surpassed her imagination. As he watched Zhao Feng take the hand of the number 1 beauty of the spiritual race, Zhao Yufei, and leave, Pan Hao was filled with envy and jealousy. This kid, he really does know Zhao Yufei. Before the conference had even begun, Zhao Feng had crushed Jin Wei and Zhao Yufei had defeated Zhao Lanyi in a single move, and then the two left hand in hand. Many of the core disciples present had already lost their elegance. Only the inner clan disciples were happily currying favor with some of the core disciples. Big sister Luoyu, although the conference has been disrupted, this might not be a bad thing for you. Next to quasi-god Luoyu, Wei Qingying gave a crafty smile. That's right. The upper echelon of the spiritual race would never allow Zhao Yufei to be together with a piece of trash. But after some thought, quasi-god Luoyu felt that Wei Qingying's words were extremely reasonable. Zhao Feng's desire to curry favor with Zhao Yufei had doomed him to a miserable fate, and Zhao Yufei had repeatedly angered the upper echelon of the spiritual race and the other core prodigies, which was exactly what quasi-god Luoyu wanted. No one knew that while the conference was being held, the upper echelon of the spiritual race was secretly observing everything. This kid is the person that Zhao Yufei has always cared about. Why did he come to the spiritual race? But it seems like because of this kid's arrival, Zhao Yufei broke through a small bottleneck, and her bloodline energy has gotten even stronger. No matter what, we can't let this kid's inferior bloodline contaminate the bloodline of the spiritual race. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.